Second row 34 and 145, 34 and 145. Third row is 24 and 22, 24 and 22. Fourth row 222 and 37, treble 2 and 37. The fifth row 93 and 544, 93 and 544. Sixth row 77 and 29, 77 and 29. Seventh row 63 and 7, 63 and 7. The eighth row 83 and 52, 83 and 52. The ninth row 88 and 478, 88 and 478. The tenth row is 70 and 65, 70 and 65. The 11th row 73 and 550, 73 and 550. 12th row 125 and 3, 125 and 3. 13th row 45 and 119, 45 and 119. 14th row is 31 and 25, 31 and 25. 15th row 6 and 4, 6 and 4. 16th row is 78 and 82, 78 and 82. 17th row is 263 and 13, 263 and 13. 18th row is 97 and 778, 97 and 778. In Walter row 55 and 20, 55 and 20. And his own rank is 69 and 69 at the back, so we could have as many as 30 cars out on this one.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Donington Park for day 2 of this BRSCC race weekend. Yesterday, if you joined us for the racing action, well, racing action, absolutely what you got. It was one of the best days of club-level motorsport I've seen for a very, very long time. Slightly bizarre at times, but certainly very, very exciting. And we're hoping for more of the exciting part over the course of a busy 13-race schedule today. It's about to get underway with our second race of the weekend for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship. They're the cars that you can just see in the background gridding up for their first race of the day, followed by the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship at 10:40. The Nankang Tyres BMW Compact Cup, they had an absolute thriller yesterday. They're back out at 11:10, followed by the Fiesta Senior Championship at 20:12. Heat 2 of the exciting Motorsport UK British Superkart Grand Prix is at 12:10. More on that later. And then the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup have their third and final race of the weekend. A really important one for the championship as well. That is just before the lunch break at 12:35. Then after the lunch break, the Welsh Drivers Association make a very welcome guest appearance on the bill. They're up first at 2:25, followed by the Zio Prototype Club at 2:55. They're two championships that we did not see racing here yesterday. The Mazda MX-5 Championship cars will be out for their third race at 3:30, followed by the grand final of the Motorsport UK British Superkart Grand Prix at 4:05. Then the Welsh Drivers Association and the Zio Prototype Club are back out for their second races of the day, followed by, right at the end of the day, one that's definitely worth sticking around for, the 45-minute BRSCC Club Sport Trophy race at 5:35, I should say, which has a packed grid, a really good mix of cars, and that 45-minute race is a perfect way to end the weekend's action. So, as we can see, the cars are heading out on their green flag lap for our first race of the day. There has been a slight amendment to the grid for this one after some of the shenanigans yesterday. If you saw the first Mark 1 MX-5 race of the day yesterday, you'll know what I mean. It doesn't affect the front row, though. Seb Fisher and Luke Pullen, they were first and second in yesterday's race, so they will start first and second for this one. The grid based upon the result from yesterday. The changes happen from third on back, because third on the road was Oliver Allwood yesterday, but he was given a 10-place grid penalty for contact with his championship rival in the points, Jack Brewer. So Callum Greytrex therefore inherits third on the grid alongside Zach Oates on row 2. Oliver Graham and Owen Mills share row 3. Then it's Michael Green and Tim Dorr on the 4th row. Back on row 5 then is where we find Jack Brewer, so the championship leader does now end up starting ahead of Ollie Allwood, but Allwood still keeps his third place finish from yesterday, so he has closed in the championship points now. Brewer then has Jack Moody for company on row 5, ahead of Steve Foden and Adam Craig. Allwood there starts 13th after that 10-place grid drop, ahead of Oak Richardson, and then 15th on the grid. Brian Trott, the third of our title contenders, he was given a 10-second track limits penalty yesterday, and so he starts all the way down in 15th place alongside Jake Jensen on that 8th row. Stuart Simmons is next, ahead of Stephen Bartlett. Then it's Michael Pearce and Matthew Allen, Bo Parry and Tom Mallet on the 11th row, then Ivan Leary and Richard Wotton on row number 12. 13th row of the grid then we'll see Graham Rumsey and Rob Mugglestone sharing that row with Bryn Griffiths and Christian Dan behind. Then it's Richard Harwood and Bill Taylor, Richard Bartlett and Michael Nibbs. Keep an eye out for Michael because he went off early on in yesterday's race, tangled actually with the man that starts on the 17th row, Fraser Fennick. Fraser Fennick will start just behind Michael on the grid, alongside Scott Leach then on the next row. And then there you can see them on the 17th row, row 18, Cian Donaldson and Kevin Dengate. Kevin Dengate, another quick driver that didn't finish yesterday. Matt Pollard and Christopher Ginn with Brad Jones at the back of the grid. So quite a lot to look out for in this one, really. You've got this championship battle between Brewer, Allwood and Trott, although realistically now, with Brian Trott in third place, some 30 points off the championship lead, it's kind of boiling down to Brewer versus Allwood, which is good news for us because Brewer versus Allwood yesterday was absolutely sensational. The battle between them raged race long. Brewer out-qualified Ollie in yesterday's race. Brewer was on the front row. Ollie started on the third row, but within half a lap they were together at the front of the field. They exchanged the lead on a number of occasions, and it all came to a head in the final few minutes at Redgate Corner when Ollie Allwood tried a switchback manoeuvre through the first corner, went into the first corner on the outside, cut back to the inside on the exit, but he didn't quite time it right. Brewer was there to defend from him. The two of them touched. Brewer spun. Allwood continued, but with a bit of damage. And Allwood, as I said, he still keeps his third place finish, though. So he still scores 96 points. So he did take a good chunk out of Brewer. But Brewer's finish of, where did he end up in the end? He was 10th place with the fastest lap. So he scored 83 points. That now becomes one of his 3 dropped scores that he will not count at the end of the championship. So the green flag then is going to be waved at the back of the grid. We'll keep an eye to the quick drivers at the back, the championship contenders in the middle, but on the front row, Seb Fisher, who got his first victory yesterday after a number of podiums earlier on in the season, with Luke Pullen alongside him. Luke with his first podium of the season yesterday. Can he go one better today? Let's find out then. The red lights are about to go off. Bit of creeping there from 1 or 2 in the midfield, but we are now underway for 20 minutes of racing here around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Neck and neck between the top 2 as they head towards the first corner. Jack Brewer, look, is the yellow car who's bumping and barging his way down to the first corner. One of the AB Motorsport cars on the grass. That might even have been Ollie Allwood, I think it was. So already Jack Brewer inadvertently there, sort of getting involved in shenanigans with Allwood. They didn't touch directly that time, but Brewer was involved in contact that then subsequently ended up sending Allwood onto the grass. 3 wide through the Craner curves. This will not work. Fisher's got the lead, but it's 3 wide for second place. That's Ollie Graham, the blue car that almost got nerfed onto the grass. They just about gather it together, and what a sight they make as they plunge down through the old hairpin. There, the purple car, 263, definitely one to watch. That's Fraser Fennick, who was in the lead pack yesterday before he got elbowed off at Coppice by Michael Nibbs. They're both coming through from the back of the grid. The yellow machine there then with the red and blue flashes. That is Jack Brewer, the points leader already, would you believe, having started 9th on the grid, side by side with Callum Greytrex for 3rd place. Ollie Allwood is the white and blue car, looking up the inside of the orange machine of Owen Mills. So they're both making progress, but Brewer is storming through this field. He's into the top 3 now pretty much, although he and Greatrex are still side by side, and now Oliver Graham comes up to make it 3 wide down the back straight. Towards the chicane we go for the first time then. They're going to turn left now onto the Grand Prix loop, and Jack Brewer will be third. They're 3 wide behind him though. The 145 car at the inside line, that is Zach Oates who goes fourth. That delays Callum Greatrex, and it allows Ollie Graham to get a run on him as they make their way now down towards the hairpin. So into Melbourne then, one of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit through the right-hander. There are the top 2. Seb Fisher leads the way from number 27 Luke Pullen, as it was on the grid, but Jack Brewer, the championship leader, in 3rd position. Now by my maths, once the drop scores are all calculated, Jack is 5 points ahead of Ollie Allwood coming into this race. Just 5 points. So Allwood, there you can see him just going through the white and blue car. He is making progress. If he can get back onto the tail of Jack Brewer, which I think he will before the race is done, then that could become a really significant battle. So 1 or 2 on the grass there in the background, but they are all, I think, going to make it round to the end of lap number 1. Fisher leads the way, 2nd Pullen, 3rd place Brewer, 4th is Oates, Allwood up to 5th place from 13th on the grid. 3 wide in the background. Meanwhile, Adam Craig is the number 29 on the outside line. Tim Dorr, the yellow and green car, directly behind him. And Michael Nibbs is the car with the red roll cage there on the inside. He's coming through from the back after his contact yesterday with Fraser Fennick. Great battling wherever you look in this Mark 1 field. Oh, bit of contact, bit of pushing and shoving down into the old hairpin. That's the 476 car there getting its elbows out. And that's one of the cars that we saw, 478 of Stephen Bartlett that we saw racing in the Clubman Championship at the front of the field yesterday. And out in the Mark 1 Championship itself as well. He started 18th and is running, well, he was 18th at the line actually, so he stayed pretty much where he started. So this great midfield battle then is extremely entertaining. Fraser Fennick, look, is in the middle of it, the 263. He's just gone past Tim Dorr, actually, so Fennick is now knocking on the door, if not just inside, the top 20. But a case of what could have been really for Fraser, who definitely had some good speed this weekend, just hasn't quite been able to capitalise fully on it. Brian Truck there going around the outside of Owen Mills. The battle we were just following between Adam Craig, Tim Dorr, Michael Nibbs comes down into the chicane. Nibbs up the inside of Tim Dorr. No, sorry, that's not Tim Dorr. That is number 7 of Oak Richardson, apologies. But Richardson keeps hold of what I believe is 15th place coming out of the Fogarty S's down towards the Melbourne hairpin. So as that battle makes its way into the tightest part of the circuit, I think I just caught a glimpse there of the leaders, and I think we've had a change for second. Jack Brewer is ahead now, I reckon, of Luke Pullen. So Jack Brewer continuing to make progress, and for the championship, that is significant. 3 wide here up towards the hairpin at the end of the lap. This could very easily end in tears. You've got Bartlett getting involved here. You've got Richardson and Nibbs side by side ahead of him. They all just about manage to mind their P's and Q's on the way in, but not on the way out. There's a bit of an elbow there that is handed out to Bo Parry. He's the grey and orange car on the right-hand side of the shot. Tucks back in behind Bartlett now. Fraser Fennick there has wriggled his way ahead of Michael Nibbs. So the two that came to blows yesterday running pretty close together through Redgate Corner for the 3rd time. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, set by Ollie Allwood. That is worth a bonus point in the championship, remember. And these bonus points are going to start becoming more and more significant now, I think, as we get deeper and deeper into the season. Jack Brewer, though, is in the lead. So he was second when I saw him at Melbourne. Jack Brewer has got the lead of the race now. So Brewer from Fisher, from Pullen, from Allwood was the order at the end of that 2nd lap of the race. We've been following some of the midfield battles, but at the front of the field we have had some fairly significant changes now, and of course if Brewer can win this race he will extend his championship lead, but as we saw from yesterday's race, it's highly unlikely to be that simple. Through the McLean's corner goes Fraser Fennick, who just can't escape, can he, from the cars behind. Now, here are the leaders. So the yellow machine is Brewer. Right behind him is yesterday's winner, Seb Fisher. There's a bit of a gap then back to Ollie Allwood, but Ollie has got his AB Motorsport teammate directly behind him, that being Luke Pullen. So Allwood has moved into 3rd now, and I expect those two to work together. Brewer with a mistake there through the chicane, and so Fisher gets a run back at him. So this is not good news for Brewer. He wanted to get his head down and pull away, but that is not happening at all. He loses the lead again now as they drop down into the Melbourne hairpin. Seb Fisher back to the front, and it means that these two are back together again. Jack Brewer 2nd, Ollie Allwood 3rd. The battle for the championship raging between these two, and I'd imagine a little bit of needle after what happened yesterday. So we could well be about to see some more fireworks here. Through the Goddard's hairpin they go then. Brewer ahead for the time being. As things stand then, he would outscore Ollie Allwood by just a single point. So the gap would go up to 6 points before the 3rd race later on today. But a lot can still be played out here. Slightly defensive line being taken by Seb Fisher. Look, he drives down the middle of the road into Redgate corner. Brewer on the outside will try and get the switchback manoeuvre. As behind, Luke Pullen and Callum Greatrex are dicing away for 4th place. Got another AB Motorsport car of Zach Oates closing in here as well. Now, Zach finished 5th yesterday. I seem to remember he had a spin, didn't he, on the first lap. Certainly one of the AB cars had a spin on the first lap in yesterday's race, having qualified on the front row, Zach Oates. So we know he's got front-running pace, and he's well and truly a part of this leading group of 6 now. So Fisher, Brewer, Allwood, Pullen, Greatrex and Oates is the order. And then you can see there the gap back to Ollie Graham and Steve Foden, 7th and 8th. And then a similar sort of margin back to the 9th place battle, which at the moment is headed by Michael Green. Off, I'm afraid, at the old hairpin, has gone number 70. And that is Michael Pearce then. I presume that's the old hairpin. And that car ain't going anywhere, but we've got the live snatch vehicles in play here at Donington, so they should be able to move that under a local yellow rather than having to resort to a safety car. So down to the chicane come the leaders then. Fisher holding on for now, but Ollie Allwood is going to try and get a run here on Jack Brewer, and he does have a run on Jack Brewer. Tries to get to the inside, succeeds in getting to the inside, so for 2nd place it is wheel to wheel down the hill, and this is for the championship lead. Ollie Allwood's got the inside line, and what he really wants is for his teammate Luke Pullen to come through with him. Is that going to happen? Luke is looking to the inside. Allwood shuffles Brewer onto the grass. Already there's a bit of contact between the two of them, and that will now delay Brewer enough that the 27 car of Pullen will go ahead as well. Brewer will try and fight back into the hairpin. Can Pullen get over to defend? No, he can't. So Jack Brewer back on the inside line, fights his way into 3rd place. He should have the position coming off the corner. Yes, he does. He gives Luke Pullen a little bit of a tap out wide onto the grass, and that actually delays Pullen to the extent that Callum Greatrex gets through. But Ollie Allwood is into 2nd place. He is once more outscoring Jack Brewer as it stands, and they head through Redgate then for the 5th time of the race with Seb Fisher back in front. Now they go into a yellow flag zone. Seb Fisher raising his hand in the air just to let everyone know that there's yellow flags, no overtaking. They have to slow down the pace a little bit as well for, of course, the safety of the marshals and the recovery crews, although Ollie Allwood certainly seems to still be attacking Seb Fisher as they come down the hill. Past the incident zone, they'll now be back in a green flag condition once again. And Jack Brewer actually dropping back a little bit now from those top 2 who are almost side by side. Are they as they come towards Schwantz Curve? They are side by side, and Allwood braving it out round the outside of Fisher, who has his hand out of the cockpit for some reason because the safety car is coming out. The safety car is being scrambled, so safety car comes out. This, I am guessing, will be because of the car off at the old hairpin. They've obviously decided to remove it under safety car rather than local yellows. So that just gives us a chance at almost half race distance. We're 9 minutes into this 20-minute race to just catch our breaths a bit and assess what's been going on and, crucially, work out these points. So it's Seb Fisher then that leads, Ollie Allwood 2nd, Jack Brewer 3rd, Callum Greatrex 4th and Luke Pullen in 5th place. So from a championship point of view, Jack Brewer in 3rd position at the moment then would score 96 points. Allwood in 2nd will score 99 because he's got 2nd place and still holds the fastest lap. Richard Wotton is off. Just interrupt myself because I've realised this will be the reason for the safety car. Richard Wotton off at the Fogarty S's. So that's going to be the reason behind the latest, or the first safety car I should say of the day. Had a couple of red flags already in qualifying sessions this morning at Donington Park. It's been a little bit of a disrupted day so far. So, the safety car then, the runyourfleet.com safety car coming back on track. Let's just get back to these championship points then. Brian Trott is the 3rd of our title contenders, but Trott's struggling to make the progress that Allwood and Brewer have. Trott is actually back in 11th place at the moment, so would score just 80 championship points, which all means, when you put all of this into the points spreadsheet, that the gap between Brewer and Allwood as it stands would be 2 points, 2 championship points in Brewer's favour. But if Allwood can gain another position, or if Brewer were to lose another position, then that would potentially give us a change of championship leader for the first time, really, all season. You have to go back quite a long way, I think, to find a point that Ollie Allwood... I don't think Ollie has ever led the championship this year. It has been Brewer all the way, so Allwood coming on strong just when it matters. So the cars come down into the old hairpin, and the safety car hopefully won't be out too much longer. Got this car at the chicane of Richard Wotton to move out the way. So the this championship battle, it looks set to rage on to the very end of the year, doesn't it? There is Wotton's car, by the way, just being recovered from the gravel at the chicane. Oh no, careful, careful, don't pull the front bodywork off. That is very unceremonious, isn't it, the way that they're hoiking that out sideways, but I suppose trying to do it as quickly as they possibly can. It's a driver's worst nightmare. This, not only have you gone off the road and are out of the race, but you now have to watch your precious racing car being dragged through the gravel trap pretty robustly by the marshals and the recovery crew, but they do a fantastic job, these men and women, of keeping these race meetings going. They've got the car out of the gravel now, and they'll tow it to a place of safety. They'll probably leave it on the other chicane, the Robert chicane, which is used on the national circuit, just to the left of shot. There goes the safety car. So you can see the chicane there, just to the left of shot. They'll probably leave it there because that's sufficiently out of the way that we shouldn't then need to extend the safety car too much. Although I think we will need one more lap after this, because they've got to get the live snatch vehicle back to a place of safety itself. So we'll probably be waiting a little while longer to get the race back underway, which is a shame, but it just gives Ollie Allwood and Jack Brewer a bit longer to plan the restart. Interesting there that Allwood, despite the fact that he got this penalty, this grid penalty after yesterday's race for contact with Jack Brewer, he's not exactly playing any nicer with Jack at the moment, is he? Because the first time he got up the inside of him, he shuffled him off wide onto the grass coming out of the Melbourne hairpin. That's not necessarily against the rules. It is, generally speaking, agreed that it's the right of the car on the inside to take its normal trajectory out of the corner, which is basically fancy speak for saying that you can run the car on the outside off the road. It doesn't look very pretty, but it is a legitimate bit of racecraft. Of course, you can choose not to do that, and you can choose to leave the car on the outside a bit of room, but with the championship on the line here, Allwood was not going to take any chances. He needed to get past Brewer. He ideally wanted one of his teammates to come up and get past Jack as well. You've got a couple of AB Motorsport cars there, the white and purple cars running in 5th and 6th. Luke Pullen and Zach Oates, they're teammates to Ollie Allwood. So a little bit further back is Stuart Simmons in 10th. Brian Trott is actually another AB Motorsport driver as well. So they've got strength in numbers, AB Motorsport, Ali Bray's team, and that might just favour Allwood in this championship battle, but it's not going to be that straightforward. He's going to have to take matters into his own hands as well if he's to win this title. But it might just come to the point where having a few more teammates in the fight potentially helps you out. Jack Brewer, of course, being run by Tucker Motorsport, Paul Tucker's team, and he, I think, is the only driver from that team racing this weekend, so he potentially won't be feeling the love from any teammates, whereas Ollie Allwood perhaps has that to fall back on. All very interesting stuff, and of course also worth remembering that although this is the penultimate race weekend of the season, it is the final weekend at which the drivers are allowed to drop scores. The championship decider, 3 races at Brands Hatch on the 30th and 31st of October, supporting the Formula Ford Festival. You're not allowed to drop any of those results, so the points after today's 2 races are the points. They will not change, in that respect at least, regardless of what happens at Brands Hatch. So if one of our championship contenders were to go to Brands Hatch and have an engine failure and not be able to race in the 3 races, then unfortunately that would count towards their final score. It certainly makes things a bit less complicated for us watching along when it gets to the final few races, but certainly piles the pressure on the drivers competing for the title. Right, the lights are out on the runyourfleet.com Jaguar safety car, and that means that we are going to go racing again at the end of this, the 7th lap of the race, with about 4 minutes to go. There are 4.5 minutes now. They've got to come out of the Melbourne hairpin, up the hill, through the Goddard's hairpin, and then no overtaking until they cross the start-finish line. So, tempting as it is to pop it up the inside into the last corner, it's not the way to do it. Look at Allwood almost pushing Seb Fisher up the hill there into that final corner. He is not going to let Seb Fisher get away if he can help it. He needs to try and get past Seb. If Allwood can get the lead of this race, that could be the difference between being second in the championship and being first in the championship going into the final race of the weekend. So out of the hairpin they go. Across the start-finish line, green flags wave. We're away in racing with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. And Seb Fisher looking to double up here and take his second win in the championship, having won his first race yesterday. Steve Foden there, the black and gold car, looking up the inside of Zach Oates into Redgate Corner, but wasn't quite able to get past the AB Motorsport driver through the first turn. So as you were out of Redgate and back down into the Craner Curves, Fisher from Allwood, from Brewer, from Greatrex, and Luke Pullen, those top five. Allwood right up behind Fisher. He's going to look to the inside at the old hairpin. This is a really brave move to make, but Ollie Allwood is going to go for it. They're side by side, and this is going to delay both of them. Jack Brewer will get a much better exit here and might just be able to challenge Allwood on the run towards McLean's corner. He's trying to get up the inside line, but Allwood covered that one off nicely. He settles back in behind Fisher, but he needs to make sure, above all else, that he keeps Brewer behind him. Second place ahead of Brewer is better than ending up in the gravel or finishing behind Jack in the race, and now Jack has got one of Allwood's teammates alongside him. That's Luke Pullen, who's already ahead of Callum Greatrex, now going for third place on the outside of Jack Brewer through Coppice Corner. Brewer is now in a bit of a vulnerable position, actually. He's got the 27 car to his outside. Callum Greatrex is right behind him as they go down the exhibition straight. Seb Fisher weaving around in the race lead. Second place is Allwood. Brewer fighting back here with a bit of a helping hand from Callum Greatrex. He might just hang on to that third place, and Callum actually goes through with him into fourth place. Seb Fisher is wide through the chicane. Allwood to the outside, but he gets delayed, and Jack Brewer is back alongside his championship rival as they head down towards the Melbourne hairpin on lap number 8 of the race. Jack Brewer sees his opportunity and snatches it immediately to move back into second position, and now Allwood is the one scrabbling to defend and trying to keep Luke Pullen and Callum Greatrex behind him. He manages to do that, but that was not what Allwood needed. Having Brewer back ahead of him means he's losing ground in the championship rather than gaining it. Into Goddard's again then. Fisher still leading the race. I'm not entirely sure how he managed that, because he was under so much pressure through the middle part of the chicane. But Allwood, by going to the left-hand side through the chicane, ended up running a bit wide, I think, on the exit, getting delayed, and Brewer got the run on him then. Into Redgate Corner then. Fisher still leads. Brewer second. Allwood needs to try and get back past him as soon as he can. Greatrex there in fourth. Luke Pullen was the big loser, wasn't he? Number 27, look, because he's fallen behind his teammate Zach Oates and Steve Foden. So Pullen comes across the line down in 7th. Well, he came across the line in 8th. He was actually behind Ollie Graham, number 24, at the line. Got that position back through Redgate Corner. So Pullen with a moment through the last couple of corners, and that means he's not up there now to help his teammate Ollie Allwood, nor is Zach Oates there in the 145 car, who gets very sideways through the old hairpin. So Allwood now left a little bit on his own here to try and fight against Jack Brewer, who still is following Seb Fisher. Now Brewer might be content to finish second here, as long as he's ahead of Allwood. Oh, there's contact between the two of them again. Brewer to the inside line there. Fisher was a bit slower off the corner than Brewer, and that just backed everybody up. This is something we saw yesterday. It's all about momentum, this circuit. It's more important to come off the corners quickly than it is to go into them quickly. And it means when you go side by side with people, it loses you so much speed coming off the turn. Now, Allwood back up the inside of Brewer for second place into the chicane. Who's later on the brakes? It's going to be Allwood, but Brewer fights back through the middle part. They'll both be slow off the turn, and here comes Callum Greatrex. Again, these two getting so preoccupied with battling each other, they're forgetting about the other drivers on the track, and Greatrex is going to get past both of them as they head down into the Melbourne hairpin. So Greatrex back into P2 then. Brewer did manage to keep Allwood behind him through all of that. But, yeah, they both ended up losing a couple of points now to Callum Greatrex, who moved into P2. This is music to the ears of Seb Fisher. Now, is the checkered flag going to be ready this time? I think it might be, Yes, 3 seconds on the clock. This will be the final lap as well. So the checkered flag is waiting then for Seb Fisher as Ollie Allwood gets past Jack Brewer on the last corner. So Fisher wins, Greatrex second, and Ollie Allwood is third. There's been a big shunt further back for Adam Craig. He appears out of the final corner with a lot of front-end damage, but the checkered flag caught me a little bit by surprise there, and Jack Brewer loses out right at the end. Ollie Graham, by the way, looks like the man that's been involved with Adam Craig, because he was rejoining a bit further back as well, and Adam is not going to be happy with that, because that's an awful lot of damage to the front and the back of the car by the looks of it. That rear right corner didn't look right. Ollie Graham comes across the line, limps across the line after his involvement in that incident. But how significant was that then? Ollie Allwood beats Jack Brewer by 1 position. Allwood also scored the fastest lap, so Allwood will score 97 points to Jack Brewer's 94. They will be, let's have a look. Now, 97 for Allwood. Helps if I put these in the right column, doesn't it? 97 for Allwood and 94 for Jack Brewer means they will be 2 points apart, as I suspected, going into the third and final race of the day later on. And at that race will decide who leads the championship going into the final round at Brands Hatch. So, safety car affected race, that one, but still a very, very entertaining one that is won by Seb Fisher. Callum Greatrex second, Ollie Allwood third, Jack Brewer fourth, Zach Oates fifth, Steve Foden was sixth, Luke Pullen was seventh, Stuart Simmons eighth, Brian Trott ninth, and Michael Green in 10th. For the record then, Brian Trott finishing in 9th place, scores 84 points in the end, so he is now going to be almost 40 points, 38 points to be precise, off the championship leader Jack Brewer. So he is dropping, I think, fewer points than those around him, because he had a non-finish back at Croft, did Brian Trott. But still, it would take quite some bad luck for the other two to bring Brian back into the championship conversation. So, entertaining stuff then, as always, from the Mazda MX-5 Championship. They've got another race coming up later on today. That one will be at about 3:30 this afternoon for their second race, their third of the weekend, second one of the day. And what a pivotal race that could prove to be. So the cars then will head into the pit lane very shortly, down towards Park Fermé, where hopefully they will be there able to have a chat with Scott Woodwiss, who is waiting around, we hope, in Park Fermé. And it would be nice to have a chat with the top three finishers, if at all possible. So a dramatic end to the race there for Adam Craig, and a dramatic start as well, as Ollie Allwood and Jack Brewer were taking no prisoners on their charge up through the field. Michael Nibbs there getting pushed out a bit wide through the first corner. It was Fisher that led early on, and then look at this, 3 wide down through the grain of curves. Terrific stuff. And in the middle part of the race, or the end of the first lap, I think this was, Bo Parry there ending up a little bit wide going out of the final corner. Goes to show, though, it's a great advert for Mazda MX-5 Racing, this. It really is an awful lot of fun. You've got to be prepared to get your elbows out a little bit, but if you do so, it can be extremely rewarding. Just got a glimpse there of Fraser Fenwick coming through. I wonder how he and Michael Nibbs got on in the end. Well, Fenwick recovered to 14th place, and Michael Nibbs only 18th. So Fenwick from the back of the grid, pretty much. Well, both came from the back of the grid. Fenwick was the one that made the most progress. Fraser started 33rd. And eventually finished in 14th place, so 19 positions gained over the course of the 20 minutes, and that was including a couple of laps behind the safety car, of course, where he wasn't allowed to overtake. That was a big moment through the old hairpin for Zach Oates, and then really the story of the second part of the race was this fight between Brewer and Allwood there. They were side by side into the chicane on the last lap. They delayed each other. That allowed Callum Greatrex through into second. And then at the last corner, we didn't really see how it happened, but Ollie Allwood, there we go. He was going up the inside of Jack Brewer as they went into the corner, and then just ran him out of road coming on the exit. So good job that Ollie Allwood realised that was going to be the last lap. It was touch and go because the time had only just run out by a couple of seconds. And the checkered flag was indeed waiting for them, and it was Allwood that beat Jack Brewer. There, Adam Craig, we don't know, unfortunately, exactly how this happened, but he and Ollie Graham coming to blows at the final corner. And that was the way, unfortunately, that their race ended. Slightly less positively than some of the others. Right, the drivers are back now in Park Fermé, a couple of them with some interesting stories to tell, and down there to dig them all out of them is Scott Woodwiss. So, Scott, over to you.
Well, morning, everybody. Morning, Andy, and that was quite a way to wait things up, wasn't it, for a Sunday morning? And brilliant racing again, and another fantastic win for Seb Fisher. It's like buses, isn't it? The age-old saying, you wait for one to come and two come along at once. Let's see if we can quickly dive into the Park Fermé area and have a chat. I wasn't thinking we have catch drivers, but they seem to have all disappeared. I can see we've got a couple down there. Right, hopefully the camera will stretch this far, but we'll have a quick chat because our top three are down here to have a chat with, including our now, I can now say double race winner. Just saying, it's like buses there, as you're saying, you wait for one win to come and two come along at once.
Yeah, I thought, well, I didn't think it would happen, but I thought, wouldn't it be nice if it happened again? And to be honest with you, I probably wasn't as quick as the two championship protagonists, but they've obviously got their own fight, and they're having a battle, and Jack did get past me at one point, but then I got back past him, and I just thought, this is possible, let's see what we can do. I can't believe it. This is like a dream weekend for me. After all these years we've been trying to, win. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, thank you very much.
So now you've done the double, you've got to do the hard part now, you've got to go for the hat-trick.
Yeah, that won't be easy, but now I think it's possible, definitely. If you didn't think it was doable, there'd be no point being here. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Dad. Amazing car, and hi, Isabella and Leona watching at home.
Amazing job, Seb. Go and get your trophy and we'll see you in a bit.
Will do, thank you.
Good stuff. Right, let's grab second place, Callum Greatrix. And Callum, welcome to the podium. That was a brilliant drive. Talk us through that.
Yeah, over the moon with it, really happy with that. The car felt amazing. Just sat back at the end and waited for the squabble in and slipped through the gap.
You kind of picked your way through, kept your nose clean, especially on the restart, and just whilst the championship protagonists were fighting, you just dived up the inside.
Yeah, just waiting for the gap. I knew they'd come together a little bit, so yeah, just when the gap appeared, just slipped through.
Now your big challenge is you get on the front row for race 3.
Well, anything less now is a disappointment, isn't it? So onwards and upwards from here.
Well, congratulations on the podium, well done, and fingers crossed for race 3.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks to my dad and granddad for the car, felt amazing. It wouldn't be you without them.
Great stuff, well done. Good stuff. Now we have to quickly doorstep a conversation because the two championship protagonists are having a bit of a conversation, so let's have a quick chat. Ollie, third place. It's getting a bit spicy in this championship fight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting fun, isn't it? Yeah, it's a great battle, coming from 13th on the grid, had to do a little bit of work at the start, big help, and thanks to my AB Motorsport teammates who made it easy for me, certainly Luke and Zach, so thank you very much. Yeah, cracking race. I mean, disappointed not to win it. I felt like I could have won it. I think the safety car thwarted that a bit, but so really well. To play to him, double winner now. He's had a really good year, so congratulations. Really stoked to manage to pick Jack last corner, which I was surprised he left the door open actually, but there you go. If you leave the door open, I'll send something down the inside. So,
bring a bit further back because the camera making a signal, so just technological problems. But yeah, so 4 races to go. You'll be alongside each other now for the last race. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's just going to be a battle, isn't it? I mean it's Donington Park. We both know how to race around here. Yeah, we're going to be together, nip and tuck all the way, and I think it'll be the same at Browns as well. So it's going to go down to the wire.
So we'll get you trophy. We'll see you in a bit.
Cool. Cheers, Scott. Thanks.
Great stuff. So great first day to open things up on Sunday. So back to Andy now because we've got our second race of the weekend and of the day, of course, for the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. And after yesterday's battle, long day already. Yesterday's battle between the two of the main protagonists in the championship, Deegan Fairclough and Jensen Brickley, things got a little bit interesting. So, Andy, let's see how race 2 unfolds.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Indeed, yesterday's race was an entertaining affair, which ended in a rather bizarre manner, actually, because the time ran out. It was a 15-minute race, and they came out of the final corner for what should have been the final time, and were not greeted by a checkered flag, so they ended up doing a whole extra lap. The result, though, was called at the end of lap number 7, which was after the 15 minutes had elapsed. So Jensen Brickley, it didn't bother him, he was leading anyway. He took the race victory from James Wallace second and Sid Smith in third. Alex Lee was fourth ahead of Jake Maynard. The big news, though, was that Deegan Fairclough retired on the penultimate lap. Deegan Fairclough, one of our championship contenders, who retired on the last lap with some sort of a mystery mechanical problem. We don't know what it was, but he started to slow towards the end of the race, and he unfortunately pulled into the pit lane with a lap to go to retire. However, that doesn't affect his grid position for race 2, because unlike some of the other championships, the grid for race 2 is decided based upon the second fastest lap from qualifying, rather than race results or fastest laps from races, as some of the series do. So Deegan Fairclough will still be on pole position for this race, as you can see there on the left-hand side of the road, the silver car with the red roof. Let's hope they've got that car sorted. So it is number 87 then, Deegan Fairclough on pole position by about 0.2 of a second in the end over Jensen Brickley, one of his big title rivals. James Wallace is also a championship contender, so too is Sid Smith. They share the second row. Then it's Alex Lee and Jake Maynard. Jake Triggs and Joseph Knight are sharing the fourth row of the grid. And then on row number 5, we've got Archie Handy and Harry Garman, Daniel Lewis and Alex Sprange on row 6. Row 7, James Pope and Albert Webster, who was off on the first lap yesterday. And George Foxlow making his debut, a racing debut, this weekend here at Donington. So the green flag lap then gets underway. And the field makes its way towards Redgate Corner, leaves the pit lane, pit straight I should say, nice and empty for the time being. Championship-wise then, the victories have been shared between 3 drivers so far this year. Jensen Brickley, Deegan Fairclough and Jake Triggs, who took a victory last time at Cadwell Park. But it's been quite an even spread of podium finishes between those drivers, though, which has left the championship still pretty finely poised. Jensen Brickley looking strong in the points. Alex Lee, James Wallace, Sid Smith, Deegan Fairclough, though, they can all still win the championship with 3 races now to go, and like the Mazda MX-5 championships, they cannot drop any scores from the final round. So this second and final race of the weekend here at Donington, if anything goes wrong in this one, they can drop it. If it goes wrong next time, they cannot. And Deegan Fairclough, I think, fairly happy with the fact that he can still drop points from this weekend, because his non-finish yesterday, he scored a point for the pole position, and that certainly will made him a little bit happier maybe, but he's still potentially going to be dropping that 1 point by the end of the year anyway. So Deegan, who has more race victories than anybody else this year, is really in need now of another one from pole position here this morning. So Fairclough then up through Coppice Corner, 2/10 quicker than Brickley, but then Brickley was only 600ths faster than James Wallace in the second fastest lap times from the qualifying session yesterday morning, which have set the grid for this race. But a whole heap of drivers were getting lap times disallowed yesterday for, guess what, track limits. I don't actually think there was anybody, I know there were a couple that didn't exceed track limits in qualifying, but Deegan Fairclough, Jensen Brickley, James Wallace, Joseph Knight, Archie Handy, Harry Garman, Daniel Lewis and James Pope all had at least 1 lap time disallowed. In fact, Harry Garman lost 3 of his 7 laps throughout the session, and that perhaps explains why he's a little bit further down the order on the grid than you might expect. Daniel was also a non-finisher, retired at the end of lap 1 in yesterday's race. And Jensen Brickley, sorry, Deegan Fairclough, I should say, the other retirement. Don't know what the issue was for Deegan, but I'm sure will be in the back of his mind. This really impressive youngster, Deegan Fairclough, a bit of junior racing in other categories in the past, made the move over to the Fiesta Championship this year, and he's certainly left his mark on the championship. And Jensen Brickley has had some fierce competition on occasion from Deegan, the two of them tangling at Cadwell last time. They had a bit of a rub actually going into the first corner in yesterday's race, and then Deegan went off up at Coppice Corner. I think it was towards the end of lap 1, and according to Jensen, they didn't make contact. It was just Deegan who went off all of his own accord. There was certainly no penalty applied afterwards, so that appears to be the case. Let's hope they keep it clean this time though, because they are there on that front row of the grid. Keep an eye to James Wallace and Sid Smith on the second row as well. Sid Smith looking for his first victory of the year, and his dad, Rob Smith, also looking for his first win in the Fiesta Senior Championship later on, although he is leading the championship actually, despite having not won a race, is Rob Smith. Watching on now, I'm sure, as his son is about to take the start. 15 minutes of racing here in the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship at Donington Park. A long hold on the lights, away they go. Not a great start from either of the front row starters, actually. Certainly not Deegan Fairclough, so it's going to be Brickley that leads. Fairclough is really slow. Has he still got a problem? That car is getting absolutely swamped on the run towards the first corner, and Deegan Fairclough, yeah, I think he's trying to get out of everybody's way. So Deegan Fairclough is in trouble already. He fades to the back of the grid. Harry Garman there getting into the side of Alex Sprange through Redgate. Sprange is sideways, but manages to gather it all together. But what a shame for Deegan Fairclough. That car is still not running right, and I fear that he's going to be heading into the pit lane to retire. That might just be the end of his championship hopes now as well. Oh, 3 wide in the background. Albert Webster there at the inside of somebody through the crane of curves. There goes Alex Lee going past Joseph Knight through the old hairpin. But it is at the front of the field. Jensen Brickley loving seeing all of this in his mirrors, because look at the gap he's got already. Brickley leads the way, Wallace second, Smith third, as they make their way through Schwantz and into McLean's. And everybody now settling in single file as they go towards the top end of the circuit. Archie Handy there, the pink car defending from the aggressive Albert Webster. Webster is a pretty quick driver, actually. He's not had a podium yet this season, but he's been knocking on the door a few times. Had a few top 5 and 6th place finishes. And he's got some progress to make now, though, from towards the back of the grid in this one. Down towards the chicane for the first time comes this second place battle then. James Wallace, Sid Smith, and then that looks like, is it Jake Maynard? I think it is Jake Maynard, isn't it? The 18 car there that's in 4th place. Out of the chicane, down the hill again. There is Wallace then, who finished yesterday's race 2nd position. That was his 5th podium finish of the season. All of them coming in the last 4 events, actually. He didn't get a podium in the first 2 meetings at Donington Park, but you often see that in junior categories. Drivers sometimes take the first half of the season just to get into the groove, and then when they do, they can really start hitting some form in the second half of the season. That's definitely been the case for him. Oh, that's contact. Archie Handy gets elbowed a bit wide there by the 77 of Alex Strange. Well held that by Archie Handy. But he probably won't have appreciated the little rub down that he had. Flash of the lights there for Deegan Fairclough. Now, I imagine that is to his team to tell them the car is still not working quite as it should, but he stayed out on track, interestingly, and seems to be sort of keeping pace with this group ahead. So as Albert Webster runs wide, yeah, look, there is Fairclough over the curb. So Deegan now seems to be back up to speed. That's really strange. I don't know why he slowed down at the start, but let's see what progress Deegan can make then in the silver and red number 87 car. Down through the old crane curves. He's up the inside of Webster, look. He's already got himself ahead of the number 19 of Daniel Lewis. So there goes Deegan Fairclough. He now looks like he's racing again. Really racing out of the old hairpin. So it might be some sort of intermittent issue, maybe. A misfire, perhaps, that's just sort of coming and going. Some sort of electrical glitch. He's now coming up alongside the 77 of Alex Strange. That's the white and green car. And then Archie Handy runs very wide in front of both of them. Strange goes through. Fairclough tries to follow him by and might even try and get up the inside of both of them into Coppice corner. He's late on the brakes. He commits to the inside. And in the end, they both sort of sidestep out of the way. They allow Fairclough through. And Archie Webster follows him through as... Albert Webster follows him through as well. So that puts Handy in... Fairclough, excuse me, into 9th position. So... Deegan Fairclough back into the top 10. There's still time in this race, 11.5 minutes. He might still make more progress, and he needs to, really, to try and score the maximum amount of championship points that he can, especially given that Jensen Brickley, James Wallace, Sid Smith are all inside the top 3, all of them championship contenders. So down into the Melbourne hairpin. Strange runs wide over the grass there. Archie Handy now looking to try and pull alongside him, heading up the hill. Brakes. Brake lights come on pretty much simultaneously, but the inside line is held by Strange, so he should hang on. The corner at which he gave Handy a bit of a tap a lap ago, and they're still side by side as they come through this time. Fairclough there making another move now. He's going up the inside into Redgate corner, as here we've got a challenge going on between Alex Lee and Jake Maynard. That's for 4th place, and Lee moves into P4 now. So Alex Lee goes 4th, down to 5th for Maynard. What did Fairclough manage in the background? Yes, he got another place. So Fairclough now ahead of Harry Garman, which puts Deegan into 8th position. Down through the old hairpin go the top 2, who both set identical lap times on the previous lap. Jensen Brickley and James Wallace both have the fastest lap at 1:46.450. So I'd imagine because Brickley set it first, he will get to keep it if that doesn't get improved upon. It probably will get improved upon, but they both set to the 1,000th of a second, those top 2 drivers, exactly the same lap time. That is remarkable. So through McLean's come Garman and Webster. It looks like Fairclough just made another move there, I think, on Joseph Knight. Was it Knight or was it Triggs? Might have been Triggs. I think there's been a bit of a shuffle. Yes, it is, because Knight and Fairclough have both gone past Jake Triggs in the group ahead. There they are. Look, the black car is Joseph Knight. The silver and red car behind him, Deegan Fairclough. The black and orange is Jake Triggs. And so Deegan Fairclough now then moves himself up one more spot. That's 7th position. 6th place is up for grabs with a good exit from the chicane here. Yep, he's going to go up the inside. So Fairclough, I think by the time they get down to the Melbourne hairpin, will have picked up another one of these places now. How bizarre then. I really want to know. I hope he finishes on the podium, Deegan, because I really want Scott Woodward to be able to have a chat with him after this race and find out why he slowed off the line. Because after that point, the car has looked like a rocket ship again. His lap times are pretty good. In traffic, he's doing 1:57.0, so only half a second slower than the leaders, who of course are in clean air. So Fairclough is really now looking like one of the faster cars on track. He's got some clean air now as well to use, so let's see what sort of pace he's got. The lead gap, by the way, comes down that time between James Wallace and Jenson Brickley to 3/4 of a second, because the second place man Wallace was about sort of 2.5 tenths, about 1/4 of a second quicker than Brickley. So we'll just monitor that gap. They are 4 seconds then clear of Sid Smith in third. Alex Lee is 1.5 seconds behind him and was slightly slower than Sid on the last lap. Then it's Maynard, and then it's this man, Deegan Fairclough, who already, look, is pulling comfortably away from Knight and Triggs behind him. Now, Fairclough's gap to Jake Maynard and Alex Lee, who are battling over 4th place, is 2 seconds. But on the previous lap, he was about 1.5 seconds, just over 1.5 seconds quicker than them. So Fairclough should be able to catch them. We've still got just over half the race to go, 8 minutes to go then. He should catch those two, and then could he even do something about Sid Smith in third? Needs to try and do something about Sid Smith in third, really, but he's now starting to come up against, or will do shortly, some of his championship rivals, because Alex Lee, for example, in 4th place, he is right up there in the top 3 in the points. So once he starts getting to those drivers, it becomes even more important, really, for Deegan Fairclough to make some forward progress. What's that lead gap doing as well, I wonder? Oh, well, that is, I think, Harry Garman, isn't it? Off at the old hairpin. From 10th position. I think that's Harry. Number 75. So that car well and truly beached there. Quite a long way out of the corner as well, which is a little bit of an odd place to land. But he's out the car and okay. He hasn't hit anything solid by the looks of it. But sadly, his day is done. Right, up through the hairpin at Goddard's comes this sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place group. And then Joseph Knight, Jake Triggs and Albert Webster dicing behind. And the lead gap is down again to 0.6 of a second now. So James Wallace another 1.5 faster than Jenson Brickley. It's not beyond the realms of possibility here that James Wallace could go and challenge for his first victory of the year. And continue this brilliant forward momentum he's had in the second half of the season. There they are, look, they're very close together now through the crane of curves. So Brickley shot off very quickly at the start of the race, but now Wallace seems to be the quicker of the two, doesn't he? Through the old hairpin, bit sideways maybe for Brickley. Has Wallace been able to carry more speed off the corner as a result? I don't think he has. There would have, I guess, been yellow flags out there as well for the Harry Garman car that's off the road. Through McLean's rear wheel up in the air for both of them. That's brilliant stuff. Proper Ford Fiesta racing this, as they really use these pocket rockets to their full potential. Sideways for Brickley at Coppice. That was spectacular as well. Gathers it together, but he's rattled a little bit now, isn't he, I think, Jenson Brickley? He can see that Wallace is coming. He can see that Wallace is a bit quicker, and he knows that he's still got almost half the race left to defend here from Wallace. So I think James is definitely sensing that opportunity to finally break that duck, get the race win, get his first of his career. Didn't get a great exit from the chicane there, though, so Brickley a bit more secure now as they make their way into Melbourne this time. Neither of them, by the way, have improved on those fastest laps that they set on lap number 2. Still then, with identical fastest lap times, Brickley again runs wide out of the Melbourne hairpin. That will lose him traction up the hill. James Wallace, though, fading away a little bit at this point. Now behind them, Sid Smith, Alex Lee, Jake Maynard and Deegan Fairclough are continuing to get closer together. Deegan, in clean air, was the fastest driver on the track last time around. So Deegan Fairclough should be almost on the tail of that group. In fact, he's already around the outside, look, but he ends up on the grass. Deegan Fairclough way wide coming out of the last corner. Keeps his foot in it, though, in fairness. And Jake Maynard leaves him room to rejoin the track. That was good driving that from Jake. Realised maybe that he was a bit too aggressive there. He decided to let Fairclough back onto the track, and Deegan does go through. So that's another place game for Deegan Fairclough, now into P5. He's definitely on for the podium here, isn't he, with still nearly 5 minutes to go. He's got to try and bridge a small gap to Alex Lee now, but the 3 drivers ahead of him now in the race are all drivers that he's fighting with for the championship. Brickley the leader as well, of course. Wallace, Smith, Lee. Oh, Fairclough very wide out of the old hairpin. So yeah, the next 4 drivers, in fact, the top 5 in the championship are now the top 5 drivers in the race. They're all a bit spread out a bit now, but give Fairclough another lap or so in clean air, and I think he will catch. You can just see the body language of Fairclough's car. He's just extracting the absolute maximum performance from that number 87 car. So completely sideways into Coppice. That was beautifully done. Did he save it? Yes, he did. That's where he went off early on yesterday on cold tyres. No excuse now, though. He's not got cold tyres. He's just pushing for all he's worth here. He'll be so frustrated that the start was so poor because he would have been, I think, on the pace to win the race. Certainly, he qualified on pole position for this race after all. But whatever that mystery problem was going down that pit straight on the first lap, he is overcoming it beautifully now, and he can see an opportunity to make the podium places. That is Sid Smith then, who runs third at the moment, but look at the way Fairclough is arriving on their tail now. He's only a car length or so behind Alex Lee. Up the hill into the hairpin. Lee already taking slightly defensive line, so watch for Fairclough to either try and go around the outside again, as he did to Maynard a lap ago, or try and get the switch back. He went for the second of those options, but Alex Lee saw it coming. He blocks him off. Fairclough in the slipstream, looks to the inside. Lee moves to the right to cover, so Fairclough might be forced to go the long way round here. We've got 2 more laps to go in this race then. Deegan Fairclough to the outside into Redgate corner, challenging for 4th position, having fallen to the very back of the grid on lap number 1. He goes up the inside through the second part of Redgate corner, gives Alex Lee a bit of a hip and shoulder, but Fairclough is through. Deegan Fairclough into 3rd place. A terrific overtake there through Redgate corner. Little bit of paint traded between the two of them, but I think there was just about a gap on the inside, and now Fairclough sets sail after Sid Smith. Are Sid's days in 2nd place numbered? He had at the start of the lap a 1.1 second margin over Deegan Fairclough, but Deegan is capable of lapping about a second a lap quicker, I think, than Sid. This is going to be very close indeed. Sid Smith will have to make that Fiesta very wide indeed on the final lap of the race if he's to hold on to this podium place. Sid Smith has finished on the podium just 3 times so far this year, including the first 2 races of the year at Croft. He then had another podium at Snetterton and hasn't returned to the podium since. That was at the end of July, so a few months ago then, since Sid Smith was back in the top 3 positions. Apart from yesterday, of course. How could I forget? Sid Smith was on the podium in yesterday's race as well. So he's had 4 podiums this season. He wants to get a 5th one in this race if he can. Now, this battle further back looks pretty entertaining. Joseph Knight, Albert Webster and Jake Triggs. This is 7th, 8th and 9th positions over the curves. Oh, Webster very late on the brakes, but he managed to pitch the car into the corner without clattering into the back of Joseph Knight, which is good news all round. There is Fairclough. How close is he to Sid Smith? Very close, because Sid's a bit wide of the apex there at Melbourne. So yeah, as we go on to the final lap then, Deegan Fairclough is going to be on the boot lid of Sid Smith for 3rd place. Brakes later, carries a little bit more speed, a slightly tighter line into the hairpin does Deegan Fairclough, but Sid Smith is not going to make this easy now as we go on to the final lap of the race. He is not going to want to let Fairclough through without a fight. Not going to want to let him through at all. He's certainly going to put up a fight though. Fairclough, is he close enough to launch it up the inside at Redgate? He is not, so Sid Smith has covered one of the big overtaking opportunities on the track then. Needs a good exit from here now. A strong run through the crater curves. Fairclough using all of the road there. Hops over the grass a little bit coming out of the corner. Down through Hollywood there. Go the top 2. James Wallace then in 2nd position. And he is not going to have anything for Jensen Brickley ultimately here. 1.1 seconds is the gap. Top 2 go through. Where are 3rd and 4th, though? They've got to be together. Here they are, they're side by side. Deegan Fairclough challenging for 3rd on the outside towards McLean's corner. Now, this is a difficult place to make a move, especially on the outside line. He'll probably try and get a better exit here and nip up the inside into Coppice corner, but Sid Smith comes off the turn well. Despite going in on the tighter line, he comes off the corner just as quickly as Fairclough, and so Deegan can't get to the inside into Coppice. They're nose to tail, though, as they come through the double apex right-hander. Less than half a lap to go, and Deegan Fairclough in the slipstream, looking to try and challenge down into the chicane. Sid Smith will surely cover the inside line. Deegan is flashing the headlights at him. He's not going to move out of your way, though, Deegan. You're going to have to make this overtake yourself, and Sid Smith so far has driven really well on this last lap. He's defended. Oh, he goes wide. Oh, he makes a mistake just as I said that. Sid Smith bounces over the curb. He comes off the chicane reasonably well, though. He'll defend into Melbourne, but will that be enough to keep the rapid Deegan Fairclough at bay? Jensen Brickley and James Wallace come out of the Melbourne hairpin, still in 1st and 2nd positions. It's all about the fight for the bottom step of the podium. Jensen Brickley, though, moving 1 step closer now to the 2021 championship. He hops through the final corner, cocks the left rear wheel, and takes the checkered flag. Jensen Brickley, a winner for the 2nd time this weekend and the 5th time this season in the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. James Wallace is 2nd, and unbelievably, Deegan Fairclough has got 3rd on the last corner corner. Deegan Fairclough from the back of the field at turn 1 after a poor start finishes third. He picks the pocket of Sid Smith at the end. Now, big drama. Jensen Brickley has been given a time penalty. A 5-second time penalty for the race winner means that James Wallace has won for the first time in the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Championship. He inherits the victory from Brickley, who has actually been given, according to that timing tower, a 10-second penalty, but I've got it as a 5-second penalty on the timing screen. Not quite sure why there's a difference there, but anyway, Wallace will inherit the win. Brickley will be second, but equally big drama. Another driver being given a track limits penalty is, wait for it, Deegan Fairclough. Deegan Fairclough has also been given a 5-second track limits penalty. So Brickley then wins on the road, but will finish second. Fairclough was third on the road, but will finish 9th after that penalty is applied. That must have been a 10-second penalty then, surely. Yes, it was. It says 5 seconds on the timing screen, but he's been dropped 10 seconds further back. And Jake Maynard, for what it's worth, was also given a penalty for track limits. All of these coming in right at the end of the race. So, to recap, James Wallace then wins from Jensen Brickley and Sid Smith, with Alex Lee 4th, Joseph Knight 5th, Albert Webster 6th, Jake Trigg 7th, Jake Maynard 8th, Deegan Fairclough 9th, and Archie Handy to round out the top 10 ahead of Daniel Lewis, Alex Sprange, James Pope, and George Foxlow, with Harry Garman an on-finish. Now, that I think is Foxlow that we're seeing actually stationary on track, but getting going again now on the run up towards Coppice Corner. So I think that's Foxlow anyway, who was running at the back anyway, but unfortunately has had some sort of a mechanical issue here on the final lap of the race. Well, not quite sure what to make of all of that really, but James Wallace, huge congratulations to him, his first ever victory in the championship. I'm not even convinced that he'll know about it yet. Because of these time penalties coming in so late. It's Wallace, Brickley, Smith, the top 3. So for the championship then, Brickley is actually going to lose points then to Wallace. He will score 42 points. Alex Lee will score 38. Wallace gets the 50. Sid Smith gets 42. And Fairclough in the end for 9th position will get 28 championship points. The bonus points, 2 points for fastest lap, go the way, well, either of Wallace or Brickley, because they both set the fastest lap, an identical lap time, didn't they? So, well, yes, we'll get to the bottom of that as and when I get given an official result. But that was a dramatic end to what was a very entertaining Ford Fiesta Junior Championship race. And let's remind ourselves, as the cars head into the Parc Fermé, of some of the highlights of a brilliant second race of the day.
knocking on the door while you've been getting all of these wins and Deegan's been getting a good feeling of obviously as well.
It's never short of excitement in the BRSCC Junior going on in that second race, particularly as we get towards the sharp end of the championship. But a first-time winner, who is just over here, we'll grab and have a quick chat if we can. James Wallace. James, Fiesta Junior race winner. That sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it means a lot, to be fair. We've waited a long time for this to happen, and I think it's nice to have this time come. Oh, cheers to the team for just prepping a great car all weekend. Minor adjustments throughout Friday, and the car's just performed spotless. So.
Yeah, really good pace chasing Jensen all the way, so that looked like it was a really good battle between you two, particularly in the same team.
Yeah, it was definitely a close battle, but I got the warning for track limits, so I had to just be careful, and then I saw the next lap that time penalty for Jensen, so I just knew I had to stay within 5 seconds, and then I get the race winning, so that's what happened.
Looking forward to the final at Cadwell Park?
Oh, I can't wait.
Good stuff. Well done. We'll let you get your trophy in a second, but congratulations. We'll quickly run through it because then we've got the Compact Cup cars going out in a second. Let's do a quick chat with Jensen Brickis. So, Jensen, I know it's agonising that you got the win on the road, but you lost out on second place, but still very strong result for you championship-wise, and moving forwards it should be look like it was a strong race for you.
Yeah, we just needed points then, so had a really good start, and we was getting away a little bit, but then James was catching, so I'd start pushing. Unfortunately, I got track limits, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm happy.
The car's been in great form all weekend, though.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, been really good. Thanks to the 2010 boys and JBS Commercials.
Fantastic. Well done. Superbly driven all day, mate. So well done.
Thank you.
And let's see if we can grab Sid, who's over here in third place for a quick second, having a chat with his dad. Sid, third place, another podium. You'll take that?
Yeah, 2 podiums. You can't be disappointed with that at all. Yeah, loving it. I didn't realise until I got into pits I was P3, but yeah, really happy. Good points.
Catching your dad at this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you better watch out.
Good stuff. Well, listen, we'll let you get your trophy. Well done, and we'll see you at Cadwell Park for the final.
Thank you.
So the Fiesta Juniors about to get their trophies for their race. They'll be back at Cadwell Park in a few weeks' time. Now back over to Andy. It's over to the second race of the weekend for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup. And after yesterday, where Stephen Daly potentially could have been championship by getting 19th place or higher, gearbox problem meant he has to do it all over again today. So Andy, question is, can he become champion-elect today? Let's find out.
Well, yes, that is the question, Scott. And I'm not going to give you an answer, because if you'd have asked me yesterday, my answer would have been, yeah, absolutely. He'll wrap it up in race 1. He only had to finish inside the top 19, Stephen Daly, and he would win the race. And as they came out of the final corner to start the final lap, Stephen Daly was in the lead of the race. He had it all under control. He looked like he had the championship in the bag, and instead of coming across the start-finish line to start the final lap, he pulled right into the pit lane. And that was the last we saw of him. It was a gearbox problem that sort of started, I believe, in practice or in testing on Friday. He had a gearbox issue, and it then got even worse and broke completely yesterday. There, though, is Stephen, the white and black and orange car, sliding its way down through the old hairpin. He's back out on the grid, albeit starting right at the very back. Now, the man who is now his nearest rival in the championship is yesterday's winner, Mikey Doble. Now, we made a big song and dance yesterday, the fact that Mikey had won his first ever Compact Cup race. I forgot, actually, it was his first ever race win, period. He has never won a race in a car before, Mikey Doble, despite having been a front runner pretty much ever since he joined the championship. There he is, look, the blue and white number 88 at the front of the pack. He won yesterday, and he is second place in the championship. So Mikey Doble, second place in the championship. He is on, once the 3 drop scores are taken into account, he is on 368 points as opposed to the 405 that Stephen Daly is on. So there are 37 points between them. Now, I've done the maths, and Stephen Daly, as far as I can work out, if he finishes inside the top 25 in this race, he should be champion. Regardless then of what Mikey Doble and indeed Ben Huntley, who's only 2 points behind Mikey in the championship, regardless of what they do, if Stephen is in the top 25, then he is the champion. However, as we saw yesterday, that's far from guaranteed. Stephen Daly doesn't have a lot of bad luck, it must be said, so maybe this is the weekend where a little bit of misfortune is going to come back to bite him. We shall wait and see. We've got a total of 31 starters. He's going to be starting not quite right at the back, so he basically just needs to almost hold his position for the race, and he should be champion, but we know that Stephen will try and fight his way through. So, Mikey Doble then is on pole position with alongside him. Reese Claydon. They were the top two in yesterday's race. Ollie Fowler then is the black and yellow car that starts third. Ben Huntley, the blue and yellow on the right, fourth on the grid, is third in the championship. Then it's Paul Maguire and Ian Howes, who came from the back of the grid yesterday. Gareth Claydon and Matt Flowers with Ian Jones and Cliff Harper to round out the top 10. Yesterday's race was probably one of the highlights of the day. It was a proper hard race with quite a bit of contact, but I believe that actually at the end of the race most of the drivers were prepared to get out, shake each other's hands and say, yeah, okay, that was a good hard race but good fun nonetheless. They have, I think, been given a little bit of a talking to after yesterday's race, so hopefully we'll see some a little bit less of the rough and tumble, but still plenty of the good side-by-side racing. There is Daly then pulling into position, the KC Motorsport driver, winner in the Ginetta GT5 Challenge at Croft, live on ITV4 a week ago today, in his debut in that championship. He is, I believe, looking at moving up into it next year, and he would love to do so as champion once again. He's won this championship the last 4 or 5 years. He'd love to add another one to his tally before going on to bigger and better things. Right then, here we go. 15 minutes of racing for the Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup. Mikey Doble and Reese Claydon sharing the front row of the grid. Lights go out, we're away and racing. Oh, Stephen Daly jumps out from behind Matthew Adcock there as they go wheel to wheel down to the first corner, and Stephen Daly has already made that one position up. Reese Claydon at the front does not have a good start though, so it's going to be Mikey Doble the leader. Ollie Fowler and Ben Huntley then side by side for second. There goes Daly round the outside. Now this is the danger. He's got to try and fight his way through this bottleneck. There's contact right behind him there, two drivers getting together. That could so easily have involved Stephen, but he thankfully got in front of them by the time they came to blows. Doble leads them then down through the Craner curves. Ben Huntley side by side and sideways there as he goes up the inside of Ollie Fowler, and they're still side by side as they come out of the old hairpin and up towards Starkey's corner. Two wheels in the dirt for Huntley. He fights back. Paul Maguire is the green and black car right behind them in fourth position, and then it's Ian Jones. He's had a good start as well. Ian Jones, having started in ninth position, is up there with them already. Fowler still not letting Huntley have this second place, is he? Ben Huntley stuck on the outside line, 3 wide further back. That's Matt Flowers on the outside, and Stephen Daly is just behind this group, look. So Stephen needs to try and hope they don't come to blows in front of him, because that could very easily end up having an adverse effect on his progress through the field. He's well into the top 25 already though, so as far as we're aware, he is doing enough at the moment for the championship. Down the back straight we go then. Mikey Doble pushing clear here of the rest of the field, because still Ben Huntley and Ollie Fowler are side by side. They've been side by side for nearly a full lap here. They're still wheel to wheel as they go through the chicane, but Fowler, I reckon, through the dirt, he's going to get ahead. There's contact! Contact on the exit. They're both off into the gravel trap. Fowler is sideways. He bounces back on the road, but Ollie Fowler and Ben Huntley come to blows. That is such a shame after spending the entire first 2/3 of the lap side by side with barely any contact. Unfortunately, it all goes wrong at the chicane, and Paul Maguire comes out of all of that with second place. Ian Jones third, and Ian Howes from the very back of the grid yesterday is up there in fourth place. Both he and Paul Maguire have come through after an awful lot of misfortune in testing and the early part of the weekend, and the team have done an awesome job. I was chatting to Matt Parks yesterday, who's been helping run those cars, and he has really been working hard to make sure the cars are race ready and competitive, and here they are, both inside the top 5 now. That looks like Cliff Harper in 5th. Yes, it is. I don't mean to sound so surprised to see Cliff in the top 5. I just don't recall a time that I've seen him running this high up the order, so great stuff there for Cliff Harper. Stephen Daly, by the way, is 12th at the end of the opening lap, so that would be enough for the title. He's got the rapid Ollie Fowler, though, who's now going to be coming through the field with him, look, because Ollie is the black and yellow car there, who tangled with Ben Huntley at the chicane on the previous lap. He goes past, that would have been Ross Stoner, as Stephen Daly makes a move. Oh, very wide for Fowler, who I think has got the bit between his teeth now after that contact at the chicane. We haven't seen Ollie racing with us since Croft at the season opener, but he's always exciting to watch, and proving to be the case again here at Donington Park. So Stephen Daly then gains another place whilst that was all going on at the expense of Simon Welton, so that I reckon puts Stephen into the top 10 now. I mean, forget finishing top 25 to win the championship. Stephen Daly is going to be looking to try and finish in the top 5 in this race, isn't he? Because he's not a million miles away from that right now, and we're only halfway around the second lap of the race. Down the back straight they go. Fowler has got past Welton as well in the background. So these are the two we need to watch, really. Daly and Fowler together as they come into the chicane, 10th and 11th places respectively. That's Gareth Claydon now. That's going to be the next driver for Stephen to challenge. Someone's been in the dirt. That was Matt Flowers. Matt Flowers has been off at the chicane. So that's a bit of a freebie there for Daly and Fowler. They'll both get past him without having to work too hard for it at all. As now Cliff Harper has got Tom Langford to battle with here for 5th position. Two drivers that we definitely don't have the pleasure of seeing racing inside the top 5 or 6 that often, and they'll both be relishing the opportunity to do so here this morning. Toward the Goddard's hairpin for the second time. Russell Cager there, trying to get up the inside. Into the hairpin, Gareth Claydon sideways as he gets into the back of Ollie Fowler there. That was a bit dicey, but Fowler has managed to get ahead of him. And they come back across the line for the second time of asking. So, into Redgate they go. Stephen Daly then is now 7th. Ollie Fowler is now 8th. Lee Dendy Sadler now trying to come around the outside of Gareth Claydon, but he's got Simon Welton and Ross Stoner behind him. As off into the gravel trap goes number 27, was that? No, it can't be. Number 17 maybe. As it bounces its way back onto the road. Anyway, it does, yes, it does carry on back down the hill. Through the old hairpin then. Over the curb goes the 22 of Ross Stoner, who's got Jim Barrett right behind him in Matt Park's old car, actually. Matt was saying to me yesterday that he really misses racing, but he genuinely still enjoys working as a sort of team manager / mechanic / well, pretty much everything else he needs to do, really. And Matt Park's not afraid to get stuck in, and must be a little bit nerve-wracking watching his own car out there battling away with Matt Flowers behind. Towards Copper's Corner to go. Ben Huntley, look, is coming through that group as well. The blue and yellow car, Ben Huntley, number 96. Lost a lot more time than Fowler, didn't he? Because there is Fowler at the front of the group, and you can just see Huntley about 7 or 8 places further back. So into the chicane comes Lee Dendy Sadler, with Simon Welton applying the pressure now. And Dendy Sadler a little bit scrappy there through the Fogsy S's, so Welton's going to have a go at him here, I think, down into the Melbourne hairpin. At the front of the pack, by the way, on the last lap, Paul Maguire in second place was significantly quicker than the race leader Mikey Doble. The gap was 1.5 seconds, but it came down by over half a second on the previous lap. If Maguire can keep that up, then Mikey Doble might have some company at the front of the field before much longer. There are the top two. Look, that gap was nearly 1.6 seconds at the start of the lap. It's down to 1.25 now. Maguire has the fastest lap as it stands, and Mikey Doble is definitely going to be very much aware of Paul Maguire closing in on him. Paul has never won a race in the Compact Cup, has had much success in Mazdas, in Mazda MX-5s in the past, making the move to Compacts a year or so ago, and yeah, yet to win a race, but he's running really well in this one. Stephen Daly has got past Cliff Harper and Tom Langford now, so he's into the top 5. So Stephen Daly then on course as it stands to score 43 championship points, with Mikey Doble in the lead, of course, on course for the maximum 50 as they head through Starkeys and up towards Schwantzkirch and McLean's. Ian Howes and Ian Jones there side by side. That's for third position, excuse me. Ian Jones defending from Ian Howes, and that will allow Stephen Daly to keep on catching. As off at the old hairpin goes Henry Cook. So Henry Cook, I'm afraid, has had a moment down at the bottom end of the circuit. So yeah, as things stand then, I can confirm Stephen Daly would be the champion, even if he wasn't to bother racing at the final round here at Donington Park in October. But he's going to keep on pushing forward, isn't he, here? Because Ian Howes is going ahead of Ian Jones ahead of him. That's for third position. And Jones goes through the gravel, and that's going to be an easy pass in the end for Stephen Daly. So Jones then, making the mistake, having been overtaken already by Ian Howes, is now going to lose out to the champion-elect as well. Through the Melbourne hairpin, back up towards the hairpin at Goddard's to end the lap. And, Stephen Daly for the podium is on. Whisper it, but could he even win the race? I mean, this group is only about 2 seconds away from the leaders. If he gets past Ian Howes quickly, I wouldn't put it past him. If anyone can do it, it's Stephen Daly, isn't it? Stephen Daly, who has been racing in the UK Championship now for a number of years. I believe 2016 was his debut season in the Compact Cup here in the UK, but he had been racing and winning in the Scottish Championship before that. He finished third in the Championship on his first attempt in 2017, and then in 2018 he won it, and he didn't stop winning it then ever since. 2018, 19 and 20 champion is Stephen Daly. 17, 18, 19 and 20 champion, I should say. So this is looking for his 5th consecutive title, and he is now into 3rd place, would you believe. He's going to drive past Ian Howes on the way towards Schwantz Curve. And Stephen Daly, I really think with 6.25 minutes to go, could do this. He started the lap 4.7 seconds off the leaders. His fastest lap is a 56.4, which is a 1.5 seconds quicker than Mikey Doble has done at the very head of the field. And Paul Maguire is continuing to lap quicker than Mikey as well. So the lead gap came down by another 0.6 on that last lap. It's down to 0.7 of a second now. If they start battling, then Stephen Daly's going to be on them in a heartbeat, isn't he? So Stephen Daly, what a way to wrap up the title that would be, and what a way to make up for yesterday's disappointment. He should have won the race yesterday to take what would have been his 9th race victory of the year. It was the first time he'd finished off the podium all season yesterday. He had a 2nd place in the season opener at Croft, but that was another race where he ended up in the gravel at the first corner after there was a bit of contact between Wayne Flint and Mikey Doble, which then also sent Stephen through the gravel at turn 1. And then he had a 3rd place finish in the reverse grid race at his home race at Knock Hill. But apart from that, he's won every single race until yesterday's gearbox failure. Now, there are the leaders. Look how close they're getting. Mikey Doble is now only 0.5 second clear of Paul Maguire, and Stephen Daly is 3.5 seconds back. So that's the starting point for Stephen. He's got 5 minutes to close a 3.5 second gap, but on the previous lap, he was about 3/4 of a second quicker than the race leader, and that was with an overtake, remember. That was with the overtake on Ian Howes. So Daly should be able to go quicker now. And if these two really start delaying each other, then Daly will take even more time out of them, won't he? And another change further back in the order, by the way. Ollie Fowler is now ahead of Cliff Harper, so Fowler's recovery drive has brought him as high as 7th place now. Ben Huntley, though, is still only 13th, despite gaining another 2 positions on that previous lap. So there go the top 2. Mikey Doble. This, of course, is a story all by itself, isn't it? Mikey Doble, who took his first ever victory yesterday, has got Paul Maguire behind him, looking for his first victory in this championship. And Mikey Doble, of course, trying to keep his admittedly quite slim championship hopes alive. A point that Mikey made to me yesterday was that, you know, even if he finishes the championship 2nd in the points, there is a rigorous post-season scrutineering process that the championship-winning cars must go through, and it has been known for those cars to fail those post-championship checks. Oh, as Paul Maguire has a big slide there through the chicane. But if that were to happen to Stephen Daly, I'm sure it wouldn't, because the KC Motorsport squad, they run a tight ship, and I'm sure they would never intentionally run a car that was not legal. But, you know, Mikey's point was, I've got to be in it to win it. I've got to be 2nd in the points, because then if anything did happen to Stephen, he got any penalties or any disqualifications, then, you know, that might just be enough for Mikey to take the championship. Now, that's not good news for Paul Maguire, is it? The exhaust is loose on the number 5 car, so it will be affecting his performance a little bit, but more to the point, it could attract the attention of the clerk of the course. He's got 2 more laps to do here, and if that exhaust continues to get any looser, then he might be pulled in to get it repaired. New fastest lap for Stephen Daly, by the way, 1:56.2, a full second quicker than the race leader. He is 3.1 back, and he's got 2 laps left. So at that rate, it's not quite enough. He can definitely get 2nd, but I don't know if Daly's going to have chance to have time to get after Mikey Doble, the race leader. Mikey might just be far enough up the road, especially now that Maguire is falling back with this issue with the exhaust, which, as you can see, coming out of the corner there, look, is dragging on the ground. So Maguire then is, if nothing else, going to be getting distracted a little bit like that. You can see that Daly is getting a little bit closer. But of course, the further up the order you get, the harder it is to make the same sort of progress. Ollie Fowler and Ben Huntley made more progress on that last lap. Fowler is now 6th, Huntley is now 12th. Ben Huntley was only 9 points ahead of Paul Maguire for 3rd in the championship coming into this race. So Ben Huntley could lose 3rd in the points in this race. Let's have a look then. Maguire, of course, is running in 2nd. He would be on for 47 points at the moment. Ben Huntley up into 12th would get 36. So, no, Maguire would still be 6 points behind him. But, of course, we've still got 2 more races to go here at Donington Park at the end of the year. And the championship is back at Donington on the Grand Prix circuit, supporting the British GT Championship in about 3 weeks' time. That's a really special way for them to end their championship campaign. Stephen Daly comes out of the hairpin. Now, Maguire's closing back in on Doble here, isn't he? Despite that exhaust hanging loose. And Daly is continuing to close on the pair on them. We're about to start the final lap of the race then. And is there a sting in the tail in this race? Mikey Doble very wide there. Takes a very different line to Paul Maguire through the final corner. Concentrating more on the exit speed than the entry speed. Right, what are the lap times? Doble does a 57.6. It's a 57.0 for Maguire, 0.6 faster. A 56.0 for Stephen Daly. He is now a second and a half off the race lead. He was 1.6 seconds faster than Doble on that last lap. But to get to Doble, he first has to overtake Paul Maguire. And that ain't going to be easy. Paul Maguire won't want to give up second place. He's only had 2 podium finishes so far this year as Paul, both of them coming last time out at Cadwell Park. And of course, he's not yet given up his chances of winning the race altogether. Through the old hairpin then, the top 3 getting closer and closer on the last lap. Good exit there from Maguire, and he's going to get a bit of a slipstream now through Starkeys, through Schwantz. He might just be close enough, you know, to have a go here, heading into McLean's corner. Yes, he is. Absolutely, he's right on the tail of Mikey Doble, who has to start defending. Stephen Daly rubs his hands with glee. You can see this falling perfectly into his lap, because the top 2 are really all over each other now. Mikey Doble goes defensive into Coppice corner. Daly with the wider line into the right-hander will try and carry the speed onto the back straight. The top 3 cars then absolutely as one as they go towards the final sector of the final lap of the race. Daly pulls to the outside of Paul Maguire, who is still weaving around in the mirrors of Mikey Doble as they make their way towards the chicane for the last time. No overtaking here though. Daly drops back actually from the top 2. Perhaps just going to let them settle it between themselves. Gets a good exit from the chicane though. That's definitely where Maguire has been struggling a bit so far in this race, and that means he's not close enough to attack them when they get down to the Melbourne hairpin. So Mikey Doble hanging on them. But there is still one more corner to go. And we saw on the last lap that Doble favours this wide line through the last corner. It's very inviting then for Paul Maguire to try and go up the inside. But Paul has the attentions of Stephen Daly to deal with here as they go into that last corner. So it actually might be more about the battle for second than it is for the battle for the race lead. Maguire defends, Daly goes out wide. I don't think Stephen's quite going to get there though. Mikey Doble will come out of the final corner to take his second ever car racing victory. He crosses the line first, Paul Maguire second, but Stephen Daly in third is the champion for the 5th year in a row. Stephen Daly is your Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup champion. He had to work hard for it this year, especially with that gearbox issue yesterday, but what a drive that was. Having started the race, Stephen Daly, all the way back in 26th position, he comes through to finish third and less than a second away from the race victory. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So it's Mikey Doble that wins the race, Paul Maguire in second and Stephen Daly third, with Ian Howes fourth, Ian Jones 5th position. Ollie Fowler recovered to 6th after his lap 1 tangle with Ben Huntley. A decent finish in the end for Ollie Fowler, with Tom Langford 7th, Gareth Claydon, in 8th place. Cliff Harper fell to 9th in the end, and Ben Huntley eventually recovered into 10th position. All of which means then that provisionally Stephen Daly is the champion. Mikey Doble second in the championship is pretty secure in that position now as well. You'd have to say he's going to be well, actually, no, he's only 8 points still ahead of Ben Huntley, so that could still change. And then Paul Maguire is only a further 6 points back. So, and Ian Jones might still be in touch with them as well. Ian was 5th place in that race, gets 43 points. So yeah, he's a further 8 points back. So there are still 4 of them in contention for the runners-up spot in the championship when they do come to Donington Park at the end of the year. And that final round of the championship, as I said, it's on the British GT package. It is also going to be sharing the bill with the Ginetta GT5 Challenge. And I think Stephen Daly is hoping to be out on that grid that weekend. So now that he's wrapped up the title, he may choose not to race at the final round of the championship in favour of getting out there in the Ginetta once again, which I think would be a sensible thing to do. Mikey Doble, though, is planning on racing in both. He's been doing a double season this year, racing in a full season of Compact Cup and a full season of Ginetta GT5 Challenge. And so Mikey Doble is going to be pulling double duty at that British GT meeting here on the 16th and 17th of October. And of course, he's going for second place in this championship as well. For now, though, it is all about Stephen Daly, who drifts around the outside of Paul Maguire, almost hits Paul Maguire in his celebrations through the hairpin at Melbourne. But Stephen Daly, I think, has deserved an opportunity now to let loose and celebrate another championship. It may well be the last time that we see him racing in the Compact Cup as well. A driver who really has been the man who has dominated all of the statistics really in Compact Cup for race wins, fastest laps, podiums, and now championships as well. He is the most successful driver in the championship's history, Stephen Daly. And to consider that 5 or 6 years ago he'd never raced south of the Scottish border, and yet now he is one of the up-and-coming names in British club motorsport. So a huge congratulations to Stephen Daly and the whole KC Motorsport squad, who seem to run about 37 cars at these Compact Cup meetings, and yeah, fantastic news for him. So as the cars head back to the Parc Ferme area, then we will very shortly hear from our podium finishers. For now though, let's remind ourselves of some of the highlights of the final Compact Cup race of the weekend.
I can see why the BMW Compact Cup is one of Andy's favourite championships. It's one of mine as well. There's so much action that goes on up and down the grid, and particularly when we saw that battle at the front between three very deserving men on the podium. We're going to dive straight in because there's quite a lot of good emotions here in this podium for the second race. First of all, we're going to have a chat to our double race winner, Mikey Noble. Again, I said this to one of the Master guys, you wait for one win and two come along at once. Well done.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it. Can't say enough. I was really pleased with that. Obviously, it lights the flag victory in that one, which is another box ticked. Yeah, just obviously my best weekend ever in cars, so I can't complain.
Paul gave you some stick behind, didn't he?
He sure did, yeah. I'm not used to not having anyone to chase, to be fair, so yeah, it was a new experience for me, and then he reeled me in, and he seemed to have the speed on me in that one, so I was lucky to be able to hold him off.
Sort of the hunter becomes the hunted.
Exactly, yeah, and then we had Stephen from the back of the grid who's charged all the way up and caught us up. I thought, oh, he's going to win this, but no, I managed to hold him off, so it was good fun.
Well, truthfully, you've driven superbly all weekend. You deserve the win, so well done. And come back here in 3 weeks, see if you can do it again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Good stuff. Well done. Right, second place, we can find Paul Maguire's having a chat, but I think one man we can have a chat to is a man who's put himself now as a bona fide club racing legend, because Stephen Daly, provisionally, 5-time BMW Compact Cup champion. Nice. It's mega, isn't it?
It's amazing. Massive credit to the KC Motorsport team. Without them, the car wouldn't be there at all. So it's so emotional. So thanks to everybody that's chipped in their bit to my car this year, and everybody that's been here to support me. It's been amazing.
Coming from the back, you know what I'm going to say, you're certainly living up to your new nickname. You came from the back to 30, you nearly got it, but another mega drive. There's almost no stop you on those days, is there?
Yeah, another couple laps might have presented their opportunity, but I mean, I was hoping for Paul to put on more of a challenge with Mikey to kind of open some doors for me, but I mean, sitting in third, coming from the back, you've got to be happy with that, so there's no point in doing anything silly.
I guess it's a step into the unknown when I asked this, but what's next?
I'd love to go and do the Ginetta GT5 challenge like we won the other week there, but it's just down to budget, a big budget for the GT5, so we'll take it one step at a time.
Well, I know from myself and also the BRSCC, we hope you do make it because you've been an absolute stalwart of the Compact Cat, you've been brilliant. So, provisionally, of course, mega congratulations on 5 in a row, and you thoroughly deserve it, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much, Scott. Cheers.
Good stuff. Great stuff from Stephen. And let's see if we can get Paul then for second place. Paul Maguire. We'll have to probably bring it away from the fence because I know we had one of the technical issues earlier. Let's bring Paul over. Paul Maguire. Yeah, brush your hair, get yourself ready for camera. Well, second place and most of your exhaust left. That wasn't too bad, was it?
Well, at least this time it stayed on, but I'm dragging it round. Yesterday I sounded like a Chinook going round. But considering there was no engine in the car Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and then we got running again by midnight with another engine, thanks to Casey Motorsport. Matt Parks in my camp sets us up beautifully, and we went out, we took a gamble, new tyres, new front pads in the race, not normal, but we did it. We had to take the gamble, and to be honest, it paid off. 5th on the grid to 2nd.
Of course, this has put you in a really good stead, not just for the Masters title, but also overall, because you managed to get some great points to the guys around you. You might even possibly bump into 3rd now provisionally, so it's mega end of the season for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the fastest lap came into it, but every point's going to be crucial. I think we're pretty sorted in the Masters for this year to retain it. If we can jump into the 3rd spot on the main championship, it'll be brilliant because we're up there. We've obviously got the pace. I'll get a lot of seat time with Car Chase Heroes at all the airfields. So any car at high speed on an airfield, it's just as good as a track day. So the more time I get with these guys, the more we can do on track, and it just proves. So brilliant.
Excellent stuff. Well, you're going back every 3 weeks, so more of the same?
3 weeks, same track, same car. Although I might have to tidy up the exhaust and the headlights.
Bit bigger stage though.
Oh, we're going to have a big crowd, GT meeting. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I look forward to that. No testing, straight into quali.
Yeah. Keep that exhaust on next time.
Yeah, magic. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff. Wonderful. And that's it for the Compact Cup this weekend. They're back in 3 weeks' time when they're supporting the British GT Championship for their finale. Up next, though, is the final race of the weekend for the BRSCC Fiesta Championship, which has had a fantastic reinvigoration this year with that brand new ST240 class turbo Fiesta. Now, Simon Horriban has 2 wins so far this weekend, but with a reverse grid putting him about 7th on the grid. Andy, can you make it 3 out of 3? Over to you to find out.
Yeah, it's been quite the weekend for Simon Horriban, hasn't it? And he is going to be definitely looking for a 3rd race victory if he can, to try and start applying some pressure here for 2nd in the championship even. He's closing in as we get into the business end of the season. Dominic Bush has the pole position for this race though, because it's a partially reversed grid. The top 7 finishes from yesterday's 2nd race have been reversed to form the grid for this one. So it's Dominic on pole with John Cooper alongside, David Nye and Zach Lucas on row number 2, ahead of Jamie Going and Rob Smith, with Simon Horriban, the double winner so far this weekend, coming from 7th. Alistair Kellett is 8th. He's had not a brilliant weekend really, had a slightly disappointing 4th place yesterday, but then an even more disappointing race in the afternoon for Kellett saw him finish only 8th, so that's where he starts this one. Spencer Stevenson and Gary Miller are together on row 5, ahead of Marco Ritchie and Ethan Rogers, who's a double victor so far this weekend amongst the ST150s. Then it's Sam Watkins and Dylan Hotchin, Marlo Cordell and William Kellett on the 8th row of the grid, and then row number 9 we have to go down to find George Davis and Josh Watkins, Matt Chambers and Bryony Davis on row 10, and then Sean Reynolds with Luke Pinder, who came into the weekend really looking to try and properly get into championship contention, but ended up non-finishing yesterday, did Luke, in the 2nd race, scored no points for that race. And unfortunately, that means that he's dropped quite some way back now in the championship, because he already had a non-finish as well from earlier on in the season at Snetterton. And Luke Pinder, yes, he'd had a couple of other races outside of the top 5 or 6 too, so his drop scores had already pretty much all been used. So as we have it then provisionally coming into this race, the last race of the weekend, again the last race before they can start, before they have to stop dropping points, before the Cadwell Park decider in October. Rob Smith I have as the championship leader on 436 points, 30 points clear of David Nye, despite the fact that Rob still hasn't won a race this year. He's been second twice this weekend, along with another 4 second-place finishes that he's had earlier on this season. Second place Smith, we'll have to start calling him, I think, but he will definitely be wanting a race victory here in this third race if he can, to further extend that margin over David Nye, who is second, 5 points ahead of Simon Horrobin, who I wasn't really factoring into this championship equation before this weekend, but 2 race victories, and he set the fastest lap in those 2 races, means he scored maximum points so far this weekend. Can he go and get another victory here? He'll have to do it from 7th on the grid if he's going to, though. Let's see what happens. On the left then, the red car is Dominic Bush. On the right is John Cooper, the white, red, green and black number 88. The red lights go on. They go out now. We're away and racing for the final time in the BRSCC Fiesta Championship. Not a good start by Dominic Bush, so it's Cooper that will have the lead down to turn number 1. Looks like Zach Lucas will come through into second there in the green 111 car. Wing mirrors going flying there. I think that was from Alistair Kellett's car as he made a bit of side-by-side contact there with Jamie going into the first corner, but they just about come out of that more or less in one piece. Down the hill they go then. Somewhere in amongst all of that, of course, is the championship leader Rob Smith, and the grey car of Simon Horrobin has not had a brilliant start. Rob Smith is already up into 4th place. That's Simon Horrobin way wide over the curbs in the background there. The grey machine with 1 green and 1 red wing mirror. As there sideways is William Kellett as he dices away with the number 27. Someone's been off. Oh, that's a big spin. And that is number 50 that has been off. Marco Ricci, who has torn the rear bumper loose as a result of bouncing across the grass. Oh, and more contact there, and that is the number 11 car that is out of the race, Ethan Rogers, who has finished at the head of the ST150 field twice this weekend. You can see Ritchie crabbing back, but Ethan Rogers has big damage there to the right front corner, and that car is stationary on the side of the road, and that is not a part of the track where they can use the live snatch either, so they're going to have a safety car, I think, for that. We're almost 3 wide here for the second place as they head towards the chicane. David Nye goes through, but he's off. He's in the gravelly sideways. Oh, right in front of Zach Lucas. How did Zach Lucas miss him? Amazingly, David Nye can select first gear and get going again, but that was a huge moment, and that will allow Rob Smith past the pair of them. So Rob Smith is going to go ahead of Zach Lucas. That is for second place then. Alistair Kellett is 4th. And then behind, you've got Jamie going, where is Horrobin? There's Simon Horrobin. He's still not really made any progress after that slightly lacklustre first couple of corners. The safety car is coming out. This is terrible news for John Cooper, because look at the gap that he had. He's already at the start-finish line pretty much, as the others are coming out of the final corner. So he will lose all of that advantage. Rob Smith is back in his favourite place again now, in second place, with Zach Lucas 3rd, Alistair Kellett in 4th, Jamie Going is 5th across the line, ahead of Dominic Bush, excuse me, in 6th place. 7th place is number 42, Gary Miller. 8th place, Spencer Stevenson. Simon Horrobin is 9th, so he's actually lost 2 positions from where he started, even with all of the shenanigans around him. 10th place, Luke Pinder, and David Nye in P11 after his spin there at the chicane. Then it was Watkins next, Sam Watkins, who's the lead ST150 car. And there, into the pit lane, comes Marco Ricci. So into the pit lane comes Marco Ricci. We've got Ethan Rogers stationary out on track there. And I'm not entirely sure whether he had contact with Marco. They did start together on the 6th row, so it would make sense that they'd be together. I wonder if maybe Marco got sideways and then Ethan collected him. Whatever it is, it's ripped the right front wheel almost off completely there. And as you can see, it's just isolated. That particular bit of the track where he stopped is... unfortunately, not a place where the live snatch can get to. There's the replay. So that's Kellett going across the grass. Ritchie's already spun. Did he then get collected? It's hard to tell, isn't it? I couldn't see Ethan Rogers anywhere in that. There was a red car, but I'm pretty sure that was William Kellett, number 66, not number 11. So not entirely sure. And there you can see the end result was Ethan Rogers either in that incident or a separate one, with that huge damage to the right front corner. So that was a replay of the old hairpin. I'd love to see a replay of David Nye's spin as well at the chicane, because that was a huge moment towards the end of the lap when he was battling away with Zach Lucas and Rob Smith. I mean, how they missed him was a minor miracle. He was completely sideways, right in front of them. Brilliant car control, actually, from David. And David, a pretty experienced racer, but I'm sure that will have definitely caught his attention. So the unfortunately for his championship perspective, that's not good news because he's second in the points, but at least Simon Horriman isn't doing that much better either. Here it is, look. So he goes around the outside of Zach Lucas, looks great, but he's just carried too much speed into the chicane on cold rear tyres. There's no contact, he just loses the rear. There, look, it starts to swap ends, he corrects it, hits the curb, goes completely sideways, and they go either side of him. That's incredible. Zach Lucas went one way, Rob Smith went the other, and David Nye just carries on like nothing ever happened. Brilliant, brilliant stuff that from David. And from the other two to avoid him, in fairness, Rob Smith in particular, because not only did he avoid him, but he managed to actually turn that into a bit of an overtake then against Zach Lucas, because he then passed Zach on the run down into the Melbourne hairpin. Those split-second decisions you make as a racing driver are the things that make the real difference, really, between success and failure, and actually between finishing the race and not finishing the race, because if that had been contact, they'd have all been out on the spot. So really, really good stuff that from all of the drivers concerned. So what this means is that John Cooper leads the way. Rob Smith is in second place at the moment. Zach Lucas is third. Then in fourth position is Alistair Kellett. So Alistair Kellett will close back in on that group, of course, now. Simon Horrobin, as I said, is running down in ninth position. And the championship leader, Rob Smith, up there in second place then, is going to be very, very happy with the way that this is all working out for him so far. He's going to extend his championship lead now to an almost unassailable one. Not quite unassailable, because of course the points not being dropped at the final round means that he could still, in theory, lose all of this advantage. But as I've got it at the moment, he's on 482 points as opposed to 438 for David Nye. So that's a 44 advantage then, as it stands, for the man that is second place in this race. However, David Nye is only a single point now ahead of Zach Lucas after David's spin. So his second place in the championship is well and truly under threat here. And that will certainly mean that David needs to try and improve upon this 11th place that he finds himself in. And then you've also got, not a million miles behind them, Alistair Kellett on 431. So you've got David Nye on 438, Zach Lucas 437, and Alistair Kellett 431. In fact, Simon Horrobin is in between them on 433. So you've got second through to fifth in the championship, covered by 7 points as it stands. But there's likely to be more positional changes because we've still got 8 minutes of the race to go. It's a 15-minute race, this, for the Fiesta Seniors, as it was for the juniors earlier on. And with this safety car, of course, it bunched everyone properly back up again. There'd been a few gaps that had formed after some of the dramas on the opening lap. So, yeah, this will be fun then. The lights are out on the runyourfleet.com safety car. Ready to go racing then here with John Cooper, the race leader. Rob Smith, second place. Can Rob get that first victory of the year? John Cooper has had 2 victories at the start of the year. He won the very first 2 races of the season at Croft, but then hasn't been back on the podium since, John. So he ain't going to let this one go without a fight, but he's already having to fight for it, look, because the race gets back underway, and immediately Rob Smith goes on the attack. He forces Cooper to defend into Redgate Corner, goes to the outside on the way in. Look at the exit speed that Smith, well, I was going to say the exit speed that Smith should have, but he didn't actually get the front of the car hooked up at all there. Couldn't get into the apex, and so Cooper comes off the corner further ahead than he went into it. Zach Lucas and Alistair Kellett then fighting for third. As they drop down the hill, Lucas carrying good speed through the Craner curves. Not quite close enough to get up the inside. Cooper this time is the one that's a bit wide of the apex at the old hairpin. So now Rob Smith is starting to build a bit of a challenge here. Carries more momentum up the hill. Gets in the slipstream. But Cooper, you'd imagine, will defend the inside at McLean's, which he does. Through the right-hander. Inch perfect over that curb. Smith just kicking up the dirt a bit, but that didn't help him. Look, Lucas is quicker off the corner, but he can't get to the inside into Coppice. These top 5 then bunching together. Big gap, though, back to Spencer Stevenson in 6th. You've got the 3 red cars there together, Stevenson, Miller and Bush. Oh, and that's Dylan Hodgkin off. That's at the old hairpin. He's actually reversing back out of the gravel there, and he's brought most of the gravel track out onto the circuit with him, so that's going to be an unpleasant surprise for the leaders when they get there next time. Here are the leaders, well, the second place battle anyway, and Alistair Kellett trying to nose up alongside Zach Lucas, ends up delaying himself in the process, and Jamie Going now gets a run on him. Kellett doesn't want to be losing points here if he's to try and challenge for at least the runners-up spot in the championship. He needs to be going forwards, not backwards. Did he hold on to that? Yes, he did. Oh, very wide for Lucas on the grass in front of them. So Zach Lucas then bounces back on the road. Alistair Kellett now turns from defence to attack and tries to go up the inside into the Goddard's hair, but he does get to the inside actually because Lucas outbraked himself slightly. Then the 3 red cars still at play, followed by Luke Pinder and David Nye. So David Nye, I think, has gained a place. Where's Horrobin? Horrobin should have been ahead of those two. So the double race winner, I fear, has had a drama here on this restart lap because the grey car is nowhere to be seen. So we'll see whether he comes through at all. If he doesn't, though, that has championship implications. So out of Redgate they go. No change inside the top 6. Dominic Bush is now ahead of Miller for what is 7th place. There you can see Dominic, the 9 car, who started on pole, of course, faded at first, but he's coming back again now, challenging Spencer Stevenson. They slide over that gravel that has been left on the track down at the old hairpin. Make their way back up towards McLean's corner. Luke Pinder and David Nye closing in on this group. Luke Pinder has that non-finish, as I said, 2 non-finishes now this season, so points-wise he's not really a factor, but the Blue Machine still quick, at least in the first part of the races, but has struggled in the second half. Oh, contact up to the Coppice corner, that's not a good place to be touching. That was Dominic Bush trying to squeeze up the inside of Spencer Stevenson, who was having none of it, and slammed the door in his face. Now for 3rd place, Alistair Kellett there was moving ahead of Zach Lucas. Looked like that might just have worked as they went over the hump on the back straight. Down into the chicane. Still Dominic Bush can't clear Spencer Stevenson, but he's managed to keep Miller, Pinder and Nye behind for now, so those 5 head through the chicane as one. And make their way down the hill, and there is the change. In fact, Dominic Bush under pressure now and losing a place to the 42 of Miller. So Gary Miller goes around the outside. No, he doesn't. He tried to go around the outside, but couldn't quite finish the job. Now Luke Pinder got David Nye up the inside, so David Nye about to try and gain another place. And does he do it? He's up the inside, but then you've got Miller up the inside of Bush in front of them as well. So the 5 of them really starting to fall over each other. Simon Horrobin, by the way, came into the pit lane. So Simon Horrobin is going to be a non-finisher by the looks of it. And that is a big, big shame for the man that was just starting now to become a factor at the front of the championship. Dominic Bush up the inside, on the outside of Gary Miller, who launched up the inside of him through Redgate corner, but had to bail out of it at the very last second. That, I'm afraid, is George Davis off at the hairpin. George Davis 281 there. There goes his sister Bryony in the background, the blue car. David Nye is on the outside of another blue car, that of Luke Pinder, and he's very sideways as they go through the old hairpin. David Nye trying to improve then on 10th position that he's in at the moment. He's scoring 26 points where he is right now, having, of course, overtaken Simon Horrobin with his problems on the restart. So that gives Nye an extra couple of championship points, but he needs a few more, really, to consolidate 2nd place in the points. Up the hill, Bush still can't get past. Oh, and a big, big, big moment that from Gary Miller as they went into Coppice. Did he come out the other side? Yes, he did, but he's quite slow. And so Luke Pinder gets the run on him. Meanwhile, Bush and Stevenson are side by side again. Bush on the left-hand side as we look at it, the outside into the chicane. But he's not as late on the brakes as Spencer Stevenson. Is Stevenson too late on the brakes? Little bit maybe. He's a bit slower off the corner, but he should be able to get back across to the inside to defend as they run down the hill into Melbourne Hairpin. They disappear from shot though. The leaders will be coming back up towards Goddard. They can just see them notice that. Oh, they're both off! I do not believe it. Dominic Bush and Spencer Stevenson, I don't think they ever touched, did they? I think they just drove off the track. I've no idea what happened there. I can't explain that. I didn't see any contact. We'll get a replay of it if we can, but that was a really, really strange... I'm absolutely fascinated to know why they went off there. At first, it looked like there was fluid on the track, the way they both just sort of went straight on, but maybe I missed something. We'll see what we can find. Meanwhile, the battle carries on here between Miller, Nye and Pinder. Pinder still keeping David Nye behind him, well, alongside him anyway, as they go through Redgate down the Craner curves. They're both really getting held up here, aren't they? Right. Through the Craner curves they go. Pinder and Nye, wheel to wheel. David Nye can't afford contact here. He's got to get to the finish. He's on the inside this time for the old hairpin though, and will finally, after over a lap of trying, move ahead of Luke Pinder. Oh, who's off on the grass? Someone's off on the grass. That might well have been Miller, was it, in front of them? Let's see, the leaders are all still there, although there have been some changes of position there since we last saw them. Is it still the red car that's in 6th? Well, sort of. Nice on the outside and goes through. Nicely done. Miller is sideways around the nose of Luke Pinder. They're both off. Miller sideways saves it. No, another big tank slapper. Surely he's not going to save it. No, eventually the car ends up the wrong way round. That was the world's longest accident, and amazingly, there was no significant contact made, but Gary Miller, who's been thoroughly entertaining to watch in this race, makes a suitably entertaining exit. I'm not convinced he's going to get going again, is he? He's rolling down the hill. Has he got first gear? The marshals are going to have a chat with him. It's set the windscreen wipers off in all of the arm twirling that he was doing there to save it. What a lap that was. Oh dear, now, I'm pretty sure there are yellow flags out there, guys. I'm also pretty sure you shouldn't be making contact under yellow flags. That is John Cooper, who had been leading the race. So now Rob Smith is in the lead. There he goes. Alistair Kellett second, Jamie going third, Zach Lucas fourth, and all of a sudden John Cooper is heading for the pit lane. John Cooper heading for the pit lane then. The man that's led every lap of the race so far is into the pits. He must have a problem, and so that now, again, changes everything as far as the championship goes, because Rob Smith could now be on the verge of his first ever race victory. We're on the final lap of the race now. The last lap then has begun, and Rob Smith has been trying all season long to get his first race win of the season, and he's now just a lap from home, a lap away from doing it. Down the hill comes David Nye. So David Nye will inherit 5th position now with the demise of John Cooper. Completely sideways through the old hairpin. Luke Pinder, of course, has dropped away from him now, having been delayed by the spectacular spin that we saw for Gary Miller. But Rob Smith then in the lead of the race. I really do have everything crossed for him, because he's come so close on so many occasions this year. He's led races, he's been in the lead battle, he's missed out by very narrow margins on a couple of occasions, and he's still leading the championship despite this lack of race victories. But maybe, just maybe, today is the day. Having worked his way through, of course, from 6th on the grid, it was his lowest grid position of the weekend, and it might be the one that actually yields a race victory. Out of the chicane, 2 more corners to go. He's under no pressure from Alistair Kellett behind him. Rob Smith just needs to get 2 more braking zones right, and he will come home a winner. And now does look odds-on favourite for the championship, doesn't he? As long as nothing goes really badly wrong at Donington, he is going to be tough to catch now in the points. Out of the Melbourne hairpin he goes then. 1 more corner to go for Rob Smith. He turns into the Goddard's hairpin, cocks the left rear wheel on that really tricky off-cambered corner. Alistair Kellett there second. Going will be third. It will be 4th for Zach Lucas. But it is finally a first victory of the season for Rob Smith to extend his championship lead going to the final rounds at Cadwell Park in October. A well-deserved race victory. Alistair Kellett, to his credit, never gave up chasing him there, because he set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race, 147.624, and finished up just 0.8 of a second shy at the flag. So it's Smith from Kellett from going in 3rd, Zach Lucas in 4th, David Nye 5th, Luke Pinder was 6th at the line, and then 7th, I think, is going to be the first of the ST150s home, and that will be a first win of the weekend for Sam Watkins. It's not actually a win, because they don't technically run within their own class, but for those that are keeping score, Sam Watkins there is the first ST150 home, and he comes home a very strong 7th place overall from Marlo Cordell, who should be next, and William Kellett to round out the top 3 ST150s. Here they come. Cordell across the line now, and the red machine will be Kellett behind him. And that was a pretty entertaining race, wasn't it? All of the races this year in the Fiesta Championship have been very entertaining. You know, a lot of the Fiesta headlines this year have been stolen by the Junior Championship, quite rightly, because, you know, it's been one of the revival stories to really be proud of for the BRSCC, the way the Fiesta Junior grid has swelled from 4 cars a couple of years ago to, I think we've had 17 different drivers have raced in that championship this year. But because of that, I think it's almost been ignored a little bit, the progress that the main Fiesta Championship, the Fiesta Senior Championship that we've just witnessed, has made, because not only has the grid grown with the influx of ST240s now, but the quality of the racing has been better than ever as well. So it really has been incredible to see the way that this has grown and grown and grown. Now, this was also pretty incredible to see. This was the demise of 2 of our main protagonists in that race, Spencer Stevenson, number 12, number 9, Dominic Bush. So they're battling into the chicane. They come out of the chicane single file, and we were expecting them to be pretty close together by the time they got to the Melbourne hairpin, but then something bizarre happens into the next braking zone, and neither of them make it out of the corner. Let's see if we can see, now that I'm properly watching them, whether or not there was contact, or did they just both outbrake each other. So it'll be on the next shot that we see, hopefully, whether or not there was contact between them. They came out of the chicane still single file, and yeah, it was into that Goddard's hairpin that it really, it all kicked off between them. So we'll try and get to the bottom of that one if we can. The rest of them heading through. This was the other moment that was Gary Miller, who gets into the back of David Nye. Look, that puts all of the weight on the nose of the car. It starts to go round, and then Luke Pinder can't avoid him, and then it goes right, it goes left. It nearly rolls there. It's right up on 2 wheels, then it flicks back to the right again up on 2 wheels, gets the rear wheels in the dirt. At this point, you'd think he's lost it. Somehow Luke Pinder misses him, then he goes back sideways again, and finally gives up after, I mean, that was a brilliant effort to save that car, I must say. I'm not entirely sure how he managed it, and I really don't know how Luke Pinder avoided properly hitting him. I know they made a small bit of contact initially, but there wasn't much that Pinder could do about that. And then the, yeah, that final save was just absolutely astonishing. So some really memorable moments then in that Fiesta Senior race, and the championship battle starts to take on a new complexion as well then, with Rob Smith getting his first win. He scores the 50 points for that one then. David Nye, second in the championship going into that race, was 5th in the race, gets 36 points. Simon Horwin, of course, scores nothing because he's a non-finisher. Then you've got Zach Lucas, who came home in 4th. This was the just the start of the incident down at the Melbourne hairpin. We didn't quite catch the end of it, unfortunately. Back to the points then. Zach Lucas, 4th place, gets 38 points out of that race after losing a bit of ground at the end. Alistair Kellett, of course, gained some ground at the end. He gets 46 points. And Jamie Going was 3rd, gets 42. So that means, if we just put that all into the magic points calculating machine, it means that Rob Smith will have the championship lead going to the final round by 44 championship points, a very healthy margin. That margin will be over David Nye second. This is where it gets close. David Nye is on 442, 3 points ahead of Alistair Kellett on 439, who is 6 points ahead of Zach Lucas on 433. So those three are 9 points apart, with 3 races at Cadwell Park still to go. And remember, last time we were at Cadwell Park, Alistair Kellett won 2 of those races, and David Nye never got on the podium. So David's second place in the championship, if that form continues, is certainly not secure. So that is it for Fiesta action today, unfortunately. The Fiesta Senior Championship all done and dusted. The Fiesta Juniors completed their action a little bit earlier on as well. We've still got more racing to come this morning, though. The Motorsport UK British Supercar Grand Prix second heat is up next. Before that, though, we can head down to Park Ferme to have a chat with Scott Woodwis and our podium finishers.
Well, there's all sorts going down here. I've just got the back. You can't see it off camera, but to Stephen Day's on the roof celebrating his 5th Compact Cup title. But we're going to focus on Fiestas, of course, and our top 3. We've got the Supercars coming up next, but we've got our top 3 in the championship, top 3 in that race who are in the mix. Now, I'm going to have a chat with, first of all, it's got to be with man of the moment, Rob Smith. At last, finally did it. That's, again, I know that's satisfying. It was going to come eventually.
Well, I wanted it to, but God, I've waited so long for that, and I've been the nearly man for most of the season. So to come and do it from, I think we were like 7th on the grid, to do it in style, yeah, really pleased, and all the team are really chuffed for me, and it's just nice coming racing with nice people, and really enjoying it together.
Quite enjoying these new cars, aren't you?
Yeah, they're really good, and I was talking to the scrutineer last night about how evenly matched they are. It's really good racing, and I just got some luck. There was a few incidents ahead of me, got through the pack, and then maintained it, and here we are, first win of the year.
I know you said you don't do championship mode, but there is still 3 races to go. Cadwell Park, you are in contention.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting.
Well, after this, we add the points up and see what we've got to do to get the championship. But I'm not one for championships. I'd rather win the races, and I'm not backing off 1% at Cadwell. I want to take, I know what it feels like to win now, so I'll have some more of that, please.
Yeah, you won't say no to a big gold trophy at the end, will you?
Well, if it comes, it comes.
It's okay. Well, anyway, in the moment, well done. I know you've waited a long time for that, so well done.
Lovely,
go and celebrate it.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Right, let us have a quick trade around, because we're sort of doing a bit of a dance of doing interviews with Alan Waller there for a second. Alistair Kellett in second place. It's not bad. You'll take that, second place.
Second place after yesterday and all the trouble we had. I got on pole yesterday and led the first race and ended up with only 5th and 3rd. Just struggled at the end and I ended up going off so many times at track limits. My own fault too, just couldn't stop the car. We thought we cured the problem, went out in the second race, exact same problem. So we only had 5th and 3rd gear, so ended up 8th, missed the reverse grid. Got the car fixed for once, went out, the car was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Got to 2nd, got to 3rd and then got to 2nd. Behind Rob, ran out of laps, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant after the trouble yesterday.
Yeah, car looks the good, so it looks like it's performing well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Once it's on song, it's working, so you can't do much when you only have a couple of gears. So, but anyway, that's the way it goes. So.
Cadwell Park next to the finale, what are you thinking?
Before Cadwell the last time I wouldn't have been a fan, but now I think I won the last time. So we'll see. It can all change at the weekend. We've seen that all the time. So
you want a repeat performance, don't you?
Yeah, at this stage the championship is so tight. I think Rob is probably still leading it, but if he is a bad race or whatever, I think there's so many drivers so close. So okay, we go give it a go, see where we end up.
And with no drop scores on that final race either, that's going to make it even more crucial.
Yeah, so my main thing yesterday was to finish no matter where, because I missed Croft, so I've no drop score. So once I scored something at all, like just try and rack up points. So look, we'll go and give it a go. See what happens.
Well, well done for second place, great drive, and we'll see you at Cadwell. Great stuff. And let's bring in on the podium again, 2 times in a row, Jamie Gone. That puts a smile on your face, doesn't it?
It's solid points, isn't it? Okay, it's a 3rd and a 3rd, but it's you know, we've worked our way through and the plan's gone well from the start of the weekend. Like I said yesterday, didn't do great in qualifying. We've just built from the setup on the car. I think it was unfortunate the safety car come out. They did drop me a little bit, but fortunately enough, they was all fighting each other and defending on the
Well, we've lost Scott Woodward, I think, down in Park Fermi there. Apologies for that. We'll try and get him back in a moment or two, because we've still got a couple of minutes before the next of our races gets underway. 2 more races before lunch. We've got the Motorsport UK Superkart Grand Prix second heat, as I said, that's up next, followed by the 3rd and final race of the weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. That one you will not want to miss. So they had 2 truly epic races yesterday, and we're really looking forward to the 3rd of them here today. So the Superkart Grand Prix then is a one-off, or not a one-off, it's an annual end-of-season competition for the Motorsport UK British Superkart Racing Club Championship, which concluded at Cadwell Park about 3 weeks ago. And this is a sort of winner-takes-all event, really. It runs to a heat and final format. So there are 2 heats. The first one was yesterday. The second one is about to get underway now. And the points scored by the drivers in the 2 heats puts them sets the grid then for the all-important final. And then it is, as I said, winner-takes-all in that final a little bit later on. So the result yesterday, there are 4 classes. We've got Division 1, Formula 250 National, Formula 450 National, and Formula 125 Open. So there will be 4 class winners, essentially. And in yesterday's race, Lee Harpham won overall, number 47, by 8.8 seconds in the end over Carl Hume and Andy Gulliford, all of them Division 1 runners. Down in 7th place was Paul Platt, the reigning GP champion, who won in the Formula 250s. In the 450s, the victory went the way of Kevin Ridley, down in 14th place, and in the 125s, it was Mark Bramall, down in 23rd, who was the class winner. So they, at the moment, are all set to start at the front of their respective grids for the final race of the weekend later on today. The grid for this one, though, is based upon the fastest race laps from that race, so there may be a little bit of a shuffling from that. Lee Harpham, I can see, is still on pole from Carl Humes. That is in the same order they finished yesterday, but then on the second row, Andy Gulliford finished ahead of Liam Morley yesterday, but starts behind him on the grid for this one, because Morley actually set a faster race lap, so that will be a slight difference. There were a couple of really dramatic moments yesterday. Sam Moss, number 31, for example, spun on the opening lap up at McLean's, and as he was sat in the gravel waiting to get going, he was almost collected by Tom Riley, number 97, who had also gone wide through the gravel and almost T-boned him. That could have been a really scary moment. We lost a good number of karts though. Carl Kinsey, Kurt Catamol, Charles Johnson, Jordan Bailey, Gary Potkins, Mark Pask, Curtis Seymour, Michael Goff, Tom Riley, Martin Gower, Ross Allen, Sam Moss and Matt Robinson all retired yesterday. 13 retirements then in total, but the good news is we started with over 50 of them, so we can almost afford to lose one or two. So they're on to their green flag lap immediately. It's a rolling start for the supercarts. So I'll run through the grid now then. It is Lee Harpham on pole from Carl Hume. Row 2 is Liam Morley and Andy Gulliford. Row 3, Carl Kinsey and Scott Allen. And on the 4th row, Tom Rushforth and Andrew Waite. Paul Platt and Lee Plain are on the 5th row, ahead of Kurt Catamol and Dean Forward. Samantha Hempshaw on row 7, with Tom Hatfield for company. Then Mark Pask and Luke Plain on the 8th row. Charles Johnson and Louis Waller on row 9. Row 10 is Kevin Ridley and Nicholas Kirk to round out the top 20. Then it's Martin Marks and Mark Newton on the 11th row, with Curtis Seymour and Michael Goff on row 12. And that's only half of them, because then it's Sean Lombardo and Ben Ardern on the 13th row. Row 14 is Paul Glenister and John Faulkner. Row 15, Peter Tilson Hawke and Mark Bramall, ahead of 32, Jordan Bailey and Gary Ward on the 16th row. Row 17 is number 50, John Busby, and 51, Steve Soki, then 61, Richard Connick, and 27, Amy Yerger. Row 19 is Michael Parr and Paul Von Gerard, ahead of Andrew Powell and Kevin Dudley in 40th place. Robert Austin and Alan Flewitt are on the 21st row, ahead of Terence Dudley and Ian Luto, Tom Riley and Gary Potkins. And then those that retired on the opening lap of yesterday's race, so didn't set a lap time: Martin Gower, Ross Allen, Sam Moss, Matt Robinson and William Lawrence. Sam Moss in particular, one to watch though, because Sam Moss had 2 race wins this year in the main championship. Didn't compete in the full season, but he was quick whenever he was out there, and he comes from the back of the grid. He started yesterday's race from pole position and spun on that first lap from the lead up at McLean's corner. So Sam Moss, number 31, he's starting on the pretty much the back row of the grid, is going to be a really a big job for him to move forward here. He's running in Division 1 though, so he's in the fastest class, and we know he's got pace to be right at the front of the field, so we'll see how quickly he is able to make his way towards the pointy end. He needs to score some good points, of course, to give himself a better grid position for the final later on. So, ready for the start then. A brilliant sight, a brilliant sound, a brilliant smell they make as well, these things. There is a distinct smell as the carts make their way around the circuit. Now we're getting another green flag lap, are we? That's interesting. So the race is not starting now. I know not why there is a second green flag lap here. But there is maybe a cart that's stopped out on track. So the carts then making their way around once again for the second time. Where is Sam Moss? He's one to try and pick out, isn't he? From the back of the grid, number 31 is there. So the blue and yellow number 31 cart is penultimate row of the grid, just ahead there of number 17, Gary Potkins, who should actually be ahead of him on the grid. So I'm not quite, I think they'll not maybe in quite the right order at the back of the field. Not entirely sure why we've got this second green flag lap either. There must be someone that's stopped out on the circuit, and it needs recovering. So the race having to be delayed then before the 12 minutes of racing can get underway. Because it is only a 12-minute race though, the time hasn't started. It would be a little bit unfair to rob them of a minute or two here. 51 making its way through there. That's one of the carts running towards the back of the grid, Steve Soki. So 4 different classes, like I said. I'll try and keep you up to date with who's leading the different classes as the race goes on. So I think we are now going to get the start this time. The lights are out on the runyourfleet.com Jaguar safety car. Pole position then for Lee Harpham. Second place on the grid, Carl Hume. Liam Morley and Andy Gulliford both very quick as well. Ross Allen, another one to try and pick out, because he starts alongside Sam Moss on the penultimate row of the grid. So Ross Allen is the champion this year in Division 1. So numbers 1 and 31 from the penultimate row are arguably two of the quickest drivers here, but neither of them set a lap time in yesterday's race. So they're coming through from the back of this mammoth 51 kart grid. So up towards Goddard's we go then. Now we are going to get a race start, I think. Can't see any reason why we wouldn't then. 12 minutes of racing. Heat number 2 for the British Superkart Racing Club Grand Prix here at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit. About to get underway. On the left of shot is Lee Harpham. On the right, the yellow and black is Carl Hume. And it's a very bunched up start here. The leaders haven't gone, but they're certainly not side by side, are they? They're 3 or 4 wide already. What a sight that is as they rush towards Redgate Corner for the first time. And on the outside line, Carl Hume is going to try and take the fight to the race leader here. They turn into the Redgate Corner, but he's not quite going to get there. Now in the background, I can see the blue and orange number 31 of Sam Moss already making some big moves. There he is, look, on the outside line. Number 31 with the yellow plate on the back is charging through from the back of the grid already. So Sam Moss already starting to pick his way past some of the 125s and the slower of the 450s, but you only score points within your own class, so you need to get up there amongst the Division 1s to score points. Someone's off at the old hairpin and pointing the wrong way, I think. Didn't quite spot who that was, and then we've got someone going slowly there with an arm out in the air. That is the number 10, I think, isn't it, that's run into a problem. The spinner was, that's the E-plated kart, isn't it then? Is that Mark, that's Kurt Catamol. So Kurt Catamol, I'm afraid, one of our favourites within the 250 class. He was a non-finisher yesterday, and he's had a spin here at the start of today's race. He jumps back in, he tries to get it fired up, but these things are very hard to restart. Trying to give it a push start himself, but I don't think that's going to work, and he's now right in the middle of the road. So has he got it started? No. So I think you need to give up on that one, Kirk. So the rest of the field are about to arrive at the last corner. What sort of order have they got themselves into? It was Harpham from Hume when we saw them out of Redgate. Is that still the way they are, though, as they come through to the end of lap number 1? Looks like it might be. Side by side there behind them, that was Liam Morley coming through, I think, into 3rd place, battling away. No, 4th place it is, because actually in 2nd place is Liam Morley. So it's Harpham and Morley, the top 2. Oh, and a spinner, and off into the wall. That is a big, big shunt. And the driver is okay, I think, but possibly a little bit winded after that. That's the number 4 kart. That's Curtis Seymour, who has walloped the concrete wall there on the left-hand side of the road. I don't think I've ever seen anybody hit that wall. And of all the things to hit it in, a superkart is not really the one to do it in, is it? Because you've got very little protection. And you can see he's blocking the pit entry now. The number 10 kart coming in after its problem has to weave past him. So a bit of a bruising start to the race. Now there goes Sam Moss. There's someone on the grass though. Is that the... that's one of our front runners, isn't it? That's the 0 plate, I think. Yeah, it is. That's Tom Rushforth. Tom Rushforth has been off at the old hairpin and he's trying to get himself back on the road. Oh, but he's lost grip, and he's... I shouldn't laugh. He spins into the gravel there. These things are on slick tyres and they run basically at ground level. There is almost no ground clearance. So when you're on the grass, you have no grip at all. And he tried to get going again and ended up spinning the rear wheels. And now he's got to wait for a gap in traffic. So slightly embarrassing, but easily done. Hopefully he'll carry on. Yellow flags at the chicane there as well. Oh no, that will be at the hairpin. Going into the hairpin. This is the leader. Safety car is coming out. Thank goodness for that, because I need a moment to catch my breath. Lee Harpham leads. Lee Morley 2nd. Carl Hume is 3rd. Gulliford is 4th. 5th place is going to be Waite. And would you believe it? In 6th position, the blue and orange kart, is Sam Moss from 48th on the grid. 49th on the grid, excuse me. Sam Moss is into 6th position already. That is absolutely incredible. Now, there's another one off here. Is that still Kurt Catamol, or is that someone else off the old hairpin? Not sure. No, I think that is the E, isn't it? Yes, that's Catamol. He's just dragged his cart out of the way, but then had to trudge away. So the leaders go through. The safety car did not pick up the race leader, unfortunately, so that's going to further complicate matters now. And now Kurt Catamol jogs over to complete the removal of his car. See, there goes the safety car, but the leaders have already long since gone. So yeah, this is going to take a little bit of clearing up. So there is the safety car, and the 3rd car in that line is Sam Moss, the one that I've been waxing lyrical about, because in 2 laps he's overtaken something like 44 karts, the orange and blue number 31. Where is Ross Allen? He was the other one coming through from the back, number 1. He is 9th, so Ross Allen is 9th. Sam Moss is several places ahead of him though, so Moss really did have the bit between his teeth there on the opening couple of laps. So he's going to hope that this safety car comes in fairly quickly, really. Catamol's still not given up on this, has he? He wants a push from the marshals, but it's not really the marshals' job to get him back in the race. It's the marshals' job to get him out of the way and not further delay the restart. So I don't know whether he's saying he wants a push to get back in the race or whether he wants a push just to get out of the way, but he's dragged the cart back onto the road now. It was off the track, and now it's back on it again. He's getting back in. He's waving the marshals over. But, well, yes. Anyway, one marshal gets there, gives him a push. It's a good job these things aren't heavy. Now second one arrives. Third one on its way. And typically, by the time he gets there, the cart has fired up and gone. So, well, Kirk's back underway. I don't know whether he's actually going to be allowed to take the restart, though, because he's been given outside assistance, most definitely there, to get back in the race. We shall find out, I suppose. Kirk Catamol will be disappointed because he knew that he was going to be a contender here this weekend. He won one race earlier on in the season. So definitely going to be disappointed that he's not been able to make good on that performance here today. So you can see there the medical car just in attendance, just as a precaution. I think we saw the driver get out under their own steam. I'm sure they'll be knocked around a little bit after that, though. Hitting a concrete wall side on is not going to be pleasant. Pit lane's a busy place, isn't it? Lots of carts coming in with problems. Carl Kinsey, I think, has stopped somewhere. We've also got number 10 in the pits, I believe, which is another one of the Allens. That's Scott Allen, who actually finished 5th yesterday. The number 10 cart, we saw him going slowly. That's the white and yellow one. He's in the pits. We've also got number 13 in. That's the next cart behind him. And 13, just scanning down my 51 driver entry list. Not the work of a moment to find people sometimes on that. 13, I don't think we saw. It could be 113. No, it is definitely 13. Surname Dudley. Anyway, they're in the pits. So is the 233 of Nicholas Kirk. So a number of them running into mechanical problems. These things are quite highly strung, the supercarts. The engines take quite a bit of a battering. So just to confirm, the cart that is behind the safety car, the yellow and black one, is not the race leader. That is Carl Hume. I don't know where the leaders have gone. I think they've maybe caught the back of the train up now. So there's only 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the race. And they've got to try and reunite the leaders with the rest of the field. So ideally, they'd wave everybody else through. But I fear that is going to take the rest of the race then to sort out. So it's a shame they didn't pick up the leader, but it's easily done. Safety car was scrambled quite quickly, I think. Carl Hume is looking around in confusion, thinking, well, I don't think I'm leading the race. He's looking around him to see where Lee Harpham and Liam Morley are, but they crossed the line 56 seconds ahead of this lot because they beat the safety car, and I think the lights have gone out now. So we're going to have one of those weird situations where we have a restart, but the leaders are going to be at the back of the pack, not the front. Okay. Now, there they are. Now, so, okay, problem solved. We were just trying to figure this out. So the leaders have actually slowed down to allow the safety car to catch them, rather than letting everyone else get waved around. So we do now have the race leaders again at the front of the queue. That's good news. Lee Harpham and Liam Morley are there. They've stopped or slowed down, I think, to let the safety car get back ahead of them. So all is right again with the world. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left, so we've got time for another couple of laps at least here, then maybe 3 actually, as they come across the line, and we get back to racing then. Lee Harpham and Liam Morley go straight back to battle at the front, but watch out for Sam Moss. He's in 5th place, the blue and orange cart from the back of the grid. He's definitely going to be a contender for a podium now, and to score some more valuable points towards his grid position in the final. The GP cart there, the reigning champion, Grand Prix winner at least, Paul Platt, trying to make a move as well as they go down through the crane of curves and into this real roller coaster sequence of corners. Nice move being teed up here maybe around the outside to get the inside for the old hairpin. That was a nice move. Number 92 that was, making a little bit of progress. That's Ben Ardern. He finished 8th within the 250 class in yesterday's race. He's running now 10th place in class after that overtake that he just made there on the 61 machine of Connick. Up through McLean's they go then, 92 continuing to make some progress. What's going on for the lead though, because they were pretty close at the start of the lap, were Lee Harpham and Liam Morley. And you've got Hume not that far behind them, Gulliford and Moss as well. Down into the chicane. Again, a couple of moves being made here as they turn into the chicane. That's the 35 going through on the inside. And nicely done, that on the brakes through the chicane. Tricky place to overtake that, but that was a very, very good example of a move for Samantha Hempshall, who was 3rd in the 250s yesterday. Now, we've had a change for the lead. That's Liam Morley ahead of Lee Harpham now. We're going on to what should be the penultimate lap of the race now. 2 more laps to go, and it is the new order then. Morley from Harpham, from Hume, from Sam Moss now into 4th. He got ahead of Andy Gulliford on that lap. So Sam Moss is closing in now on Carl Hume, and those two were both potential front runners. We knew that, but Sam Moss running in 4th then. Can he get onto the rostrum here before the end of the race? I reckon he probably can with 2 laps still to go. Leaders go through. There is Moss in 4th. And what a beautiful drive this has been from Sam. More than making up for his spin up at this part of the circuit at McLean's yesterday on the first lap. Carl Hume ain't going to be easy to overtake. Carl finished 2nd yesterday, so he'll be already a bit disappointed to be on the bottom step of the podium this time. Won't want to lose that 3rd place. You get 25 points for winning a race within your class, 20 for finishing 2nd and 16 for 3rd. So it's worth quite a few points between these top 3 positions. It then goes down in slightly smaller points increments from there. Makes you wince watching them go over those curves through the chicane, knowing how low to the ground they're sitting and just how fast they're going as well. The Division 1 karts producing about 100 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider how little these things weigh, it really is fearsome performance. Top speed in these Division 1 karts, getting on for 150 miles an hour. Which is a terrifying thought, really. Out of the last corner then, onto the final lap they go, and it's side by side for 3rd. Sam Moss is on the grass there as he tries to get around the outside of Carl Hume. That was really close, but he's bought himself the inside line now into Redgate corner. He's going to have to be late on the brakes, though, to make this one stick. They can brake extremely late, these karts, into that first turn, and Sam Moss has done it. He's into P3. Don't think he's going to get time now to catch the top 2, though. They were 1.5 seconds ahead of these two at the start of the lap. Ross Allen is into the top 5 as well. Ross Allen is the pale blue kart, I think, just behind them. He also came from the back in the Jade, and he might catch those two before the end, actually, because he was a little bit quicker than them on the previous lap. The leader then goes through McLean's. That is Liam Morley. So Liam Morley was 4th yesterday, and he's going to have, it would appear, a race victory in this one. So 13 yesterday, 25 points today. We've got 2nd place for Lee Harpham. Of course, he had 25 yesterday and 20 in this heat, so I think Harpham's likely to have the pole position for the final. The only other person realistically that could have beat him, I guess, was Carl Hume, but Carl Hume is going to finish a bit further back in this. 156 is off at McLean's, I think that is. It's either McLean's or the old hairpin. That's a last lap spin for Michael Goff then, unfortunately, but the leader, no such problems for him. Liam Morley comes into the final corner, and he is going to win Heat 2 of the British Supercar Grand Prix here at Donington Park. Out of the final turn, across the line, Liam Morley a winner, 2nd place Lee Harpham, and 3rd place from 39th on the grid is Sam Moss. What an incredible result that was. And Ross Allen, no, he didn't quite get Carl Hume at the line. He was ahead of him when we saw him there, but he didn't quite get him before the checkered flag. Now, in the classes, we've got the 250s are won by Paul Platt. He was also the 250 winner in yesterday's race, I seem to remember. Yes, he was, so he will have the 250 pole position for the final later on. The Formula 450 Nationals look like they're going to be won by kart number 11. Number 11 is Kevin Ridley. He was also yesterday's winner, so 2 race wins in the heats will give him pole for the final, and he has now seen the checkered flag. And the final class is the 125 Open class, and that one was actually quite close going on to the last lap. The kart's just coming out of the final corner now, I think, on the top 125s. And in fact, the leaders have already gone through, excuse me. It's number 97 that does get the victory. And that is, of course, the kart that had that moment yesterday, was it not? Number 97, yes, Tom Riley. So a non-finish in Heat 1 for Tom Riley. but he comes back and wins Heat 2. Who was second? Number 49 was second. That was Michael Parr. He's had 2 second places, so Parr, I think then, will be on the pole position within the 125 Opens, but we'll get the grid confirmed to us just before the final later on. That final, by the way, due to start at about 5 minutes past 4, and that will be one of the real highlights of the day, that later on this afternoon. So one more race to go before the lunch break. That will be the third and final race of the weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. They've had 2 very entertaining 20-minute races already this weekend, with Sam Smith and Jack Harding continuing their championship battle. Sam, a double winner so far, but before that race can get underway, there's a bit of recovery work to be done. We'll have some interviews, hopefully, from our podium finishers, but first, some of the highlights of Heat 2 for the British Superkart Grand Prix. So some brilliant racing there in the second heat for the Motorsport UK British Superkart Grand Prix. The drivers just making their way down into Parc Fermé then. As I said, we've got one more race to come still here before the lunch break, and then we've got another 7 races this afternoon. It's pretty non-stop here at Donington Park today. We've got some new races, though, to enjoy later on that we haven't seen yet this weekend. The Welsh Drivers Association with their Sports Saloon Championship are up first after lunch at about 2:25. We've got the Zio Prototype Cup here as well, and at the end of the day, the Club Sport Trophy as well, with their 45-minute race, which has some interesting names on the entry list, which we'll get into a bit later on. We've also got, obviously, the final for the Superkarts and the final race of the weekend for that MX-5 Championship, which is super, super tight at the top of the points coming into this final... going to this final race of the weekend, the penultimate round of the Championship. So a little bit of recovery work to be done, I think, out on track then after the Superkart heat, which should give us plenty of time to get a few interviews from down in Parc Fermé. Drivers are pretty much, I think, all in position. And we are now going to be able to head down then to have a chat with Scott Woodwiss and some of our front-running finishers in that second heat of the Motorsport UK British Superkart Grand Prix.
Another thrilling heat for the Motorsport UK British Superkart Grand Prix here at Donington Park. And the winner of that heat was Liam Morley, just over there by the fence. So we'll have a quick chat with him and see how he found that one. Liam, congratulations, Heat 2 victory. I think that seems pretty satisfying shape for the final.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying to the other guys, we've had issues all weekend with kick switching onto one cylinder. So the lads changed everything last night, and luckily whatever it was that was causing it, we've now sorted. So should be starting second or third, I think, for the GP, so it puts us in good stead to try and win it.
Yeah. So it's a heat winner piece for yourself and Lee, so I guess it's going to be pretty tight between you guys and everyone else around you, like Sam and Ross. It's going to be quite a hectic battle at the front, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my plan's to try and get out front and break away and let them lot battle behind, but whether that'll happen or not, I don't know, so we'll see what happens.
You're in good form at Anglesey, so it looks like you carried it over to Donington, so kart seems to like the fast and flowing places.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Donington's one of my favourite circuits. Like I say, now that we've got to the bottom of the issues, there's no reason for us not to win it, you know, so hopefully all goes well and we'll go from there.
You want that GP plate, don't you?
I do, yeah, it's my 10th one. It's not going to be the one that gets away.
That'll be a milestone, so you certainly want it that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I always said if I could win 10 GPs, I'll be happy, and I've got one left to get, so if I can get it this weekend, that's another achievement for myself.
You're on the verge, so fingers crossed, and we'll see you in the final.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. So that's Liam Morley with a victory in the final. So that now means that we had in the heat, so that means now the final comes up later on this afternoon. One more race left to go before our lunch break, and that is the third race of the weekend for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. Partially reverse grid, and it's 3 Hills Motorsport cars on the front row, that and Bezel on pole position. So Andy, over to you. Is it going to be a 1-2-3 for Aiden's team?
Yes, well, Aiden would like that. I spoke to him this morning, actually, when he was having his breakfast, and he wasn't in a terribly good mood, actually. He said they were having a pretty rubbish weekend. Remember, one of Aiden's cars, driven by James Warrior, was at the... it was sort of the very front of that... major pile-up that we had at the start of yesterday's race. If you weren't with us yesterday, the first of our MX-5 Super Cup races, there was a multi-car incident going through Redgate Corner when James Warrior was tapped into a spin, having qualified inside the top half dozen or so, and on a 32-car grid, it was unsurprising when then a number of different cars subsequently collected him. One of them was Javier Brook. He got pitched up upside down in the number 70 car, did a full roll, landed back on his wheels, and actually the team said that there was next to no damage done to the car at all. They could have quite happily sent him back on his way in that race, but understandably he did retire, got back out on the grid for race number 2 though, and pedalled that car pretty well before retiring, unfortunately, 2/3 of the way through. So, yes, Aiden Hill's team not having the best of weekends, but as Scott quite rightly says, they've got a couple of cars there up near the front of the grid, and they would love to end the weekend on a more positive note. So the Donington Park circuit is about to see its penultimate Mazda MX-5 action of the day. The Mark 1 Championship will have their final race a little bit later on, of course. And the MX-5 Super Cup, though, very much the sort of pinnacle, really, of the Mazda MX-5 racing in this country. It's the only championship, really, that extensively uses these Mark III MX-5s. It's always been a hugely competitive championship ever since its inception, getting on for 10 years ago now. And, yeah, the championship is as hot as ever this year. This third race is a partially... reversed grid, which is why we've got some different drivers up near the front of it, Adam Bessel and James Cossons on that front row. The championship story here is all about Sam Smith and Jack Harding, though, because those two have been at each other pretty much all season long. Sam Smith, after 2 race wins yesterday, comes into this race on 1,393 points. Jack Harding, after a 2nd place in race 2 and a 4th in race 1, comes into this one on 1,377, meaning that Jack is 16 points behind with 4 races still to go. It is guaranteed to go down to the final meeting at Brands Hatch. Again, these cars, like the Mark 1s and the MX-5 Clubman Championship as well, will all be supporting the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival at the end of October, but the drivers won't be able to drop any of their results from Brands Hatch. So this last race now now here at Donington. The last time, really, that the drivers can afford to have a bad result. After this, it would be pretty crushing for their championship hopes. So Jack Harding really needs to beat Sam Smith in this race, realistically, to close this gap down. The closer he can get it to sort of single digits, the better. But we saw last season at the Brands Hatch finale, Luke Herbert had a nasty accident that cost him the championship on finals weekend. Anything can happen. And Sam Smith certainly will still be feeling the pressure, despite the fact that he's got a 16-point cushion. Right, let's have a look then at how they line up for this 20-minute race, the reversed grid race of the weekend. It was the top 6 finishers from yesterday that get reversed. So 6th place in yesterday's race gives Adam Bessel pole position for this one with his teammate James Cossons alongside. And then John Langridge lines up their 3rd on the grid in another one of those Hills Motorsport cars. As Scott said, 3 of them in the top 3 positions. Then it's Patrick Fletcher, who lines up 4th on the grid ahead of the top 2 in the championship, Jack Harding and Sam Smith, sharing the 3rd row of the grid, with Smith the one who has this 16-point advantage. James Warrior and Michael Nibbs are there on the 4th row, so James Warrior with a really good grid position, actually, despite the accident that he suffered at the start of the first race. Although actually that is not the grid that I've got in front of me, because it should be Michael Nibbs and Declan Lee next. So then it is Richard Amos and Braden Fletcher, then Alex Miller, Tom Grensinger, Kevin Sylvain and Lee Britton. They're all right. So there was a rogue James Warrior that shouldn't have been on the 3rd row. I think that's what it was. So the rest of the grid should still be correct, albeit everyone will be bumped up one extra position, if that makes sense. So Lee Britton will be 13th, Will Morris will be 14th. And then we will have Nick Rutter and Clive Powell, Seamus Heaney and Tom Selden, with Clive Chisnall alongside him. Then Christina Holly and Andrew Flynn. Nick Ponting will be alongside him as well. Then you've got Matt Pickford and Adrian Burge, Bruce Robinson and Andrew Dyer, Martin Heath and Alex Jones, Liz Walton and Scott Wright towards the end ahead of George Grant, Xavier Brook, Luke Whitworth, Chris Richardson, and then Martin Tolley. Pretty quick driver coming through from the back of the grid. Martin's up there in the Masters Championship this year, but had a non-finish in the 2nd race yesterday. And he's got Tom Smith and Stephen New, who are at the back of the grid then, the 25 and 41 cars. They, I believe, did not start the 2nd race yesterday because of their involvement in the race 1 shunt, but they've got their cars fixed and they've been allowed to start from the back of the grid. So, as well as the fight for the championship lead, there's also quite an interesting scrap going on for 3rd in the championship between Patrick Fletcher and James Cossons. Fletcher was 2nd in yesterday's first race, 3rd in race 2, whilst Cossons has had a pair of 5th place finishes. But James Cossons is on the front row now for this one. James, a race winner twice this year, both of them coming in reversed grid races, one at Croft and one last time at Cadwell Park. So James Cossons could be one of the favourites, actually, to claim the victory. And if he does, it could move him closer to Patrick Fletcher for 3rd in the points. There are just 12 points between them now coming into this race. And then likewise, John Langridge is 5th in the championship, just 15 points ahead of Declan Lee. So there are some quite interesting battles going on behind the top 2 in the championship, but understandably most of our focus has been on Sam Smith and Jack Harding. Sam Smith, who has won now 10 races this year. He's only been off the podium once. That was in this equivalent race last time at Cadwell Park, the reversed grid affair, when he had a 9th place finish, a race that was won by James Cossons. Jack Harding came home 2nd to close the gap slightly, but of course that became one of Sam's 3 dropped scores. The problem with consistently finishing 1st and 2nd, as Sam Smith has done this year, means that he is dropping more points than Jack. He also has a 9-point penalty, which was applied for contact between the two of them at Snetterton in July, when Sam tagged Jack off the road when they were battling for position, battling for the lead, in fact. Sam went on to win the race, kept the win, but was given a 9-point penalty, and Jack Harding eventually came home to finish in 9th position, so he still ended up losing some points, essentially, but Sam Smith was given the blame for that incident. Then they went to Cadwell Park and they had some good hard racing, but nothing really too untoward. Yesterday, there were times when things got a bit physical, not necessarily between Sam and Jack, though, actually. Sam was on the receiving end of a bit of contact from Richard Amos in the early stages of yesterday's race. Richard is Sam's teammate, and was perhaps trying to play the team game a little bit too well, and Jack Harding in that first race yesterday ended up getting pushed wide at McLean's, lost a lot of ground and only ever recovered back into 4th place. It's 5th that he starts this race from, though, as the cars start to line up on the grid then right in front of my commentary position here, ready for the start of 20 minutes of racing here around Donington Park. The final time this weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup drivers. On the left of shot is the darker car of Adam Bessel, the blue-fronted orange rear car of James Cossons there, number 24. Orange and black rear, really. He's second. Then the white, grey and green, number 5 is John Langridge. The black with the red stripes is Patrick Fletcher. And on the third row, the championship contenders. The red and grey, number 43 is Jack Harding. The white car is Sam Smith, number 1, the reigning champion and current championship leader by 16 points coming into this final race of the weekend. So back couple of rows then are just about in position, waiting for the green flag to tell us that everyone is where they need to be, and then we will get this race underway. This should be a very exciting one indeed. 20 minutes, the Donington Park circuit, one of the best in the country for Mazda MX-5 racing, as we've seen already this weekend. What do the Super Cup drivers have in store for us then as the third and final race of the weekend gets underway? After quite a long hold, now away they go. There's a staller in the middle of the pack. Let's hope they all miss them. Looks like they will just about. At the front of the field, it's Patrick Fletcher struggling. Patrick Fletcher is slow. Hand out of the cockpit. He's got cars coming up behind him. And they're locking up and somehow missing him. How on earth was that not another massive lap one shunt? Patrick Fletcher, I think he's got a drive shaft problem. Either drive shaft or gearbox. The car accelerated initially, and then as he went up through the gears, it just stopped. He's also got the 48 car behind him, which is going slowly after all of that as well. That's Tom Grensinger on his debut in the championship, unfortunately in strife before he even gets to turn number 1. Well, that was a couple of hairy, scary moments. Fletcher needs a push, and he's in Grensinger's way, so those are both going to need recovering by the marshals. At the front of the field, it's Bessel that leads. It is Cossons second. Harding is up to third, look ahead of John Langridge, and there's Sam Smith on the outside line with his teammate Richard Amos behind him, then Braden Fletcher and Declan Lee. Three McLeans they go on the outside line there. The 177 car getting squeezed a little bit wide. That's Will Morris, but fighting hard around the outside towards Coppice Court, I should say, for the first time. So down back straight come the leading group then, and Jack Harding on the attack already, trying to find a way past James Cossons. He's not going to move aside though. James is a feisty racer, fair, but he certainly gets his elbows out, and he's not bad at defensive driving, as he showed at Cadwell last time. To defend for that race 3 victory, but he's not got the lead in this one. That's Bessel that's pulling away slightly. Down to the Melbourne hairpin, John Langridge having a look up the inside of Jack Harding there for third, and I think he might just make that one work. Jack Harding's going to try and carry better momentum around the outside. John Langridge, one of the fairest drivers on the grid there. You can see he chose not to squeeze Jack Harding, and actually that's going to lose him a place because Harding goes back through, but so too I think will Sam Smith. Off at the chicane are 2 cars. That looks like one of them's number 15 possibly in the gravel. Yes, it is. So 15, I think it's Clyde Powell's, isn't it? Yes, it is. And then there's another one off. I didn't quite catch that number. Might have been the 177, maybe, because Will Morris has lost even more ground. See if he comes across the line at the end of the first lap. Bessel leads, though. Cossons second. Harding is third. Now, Langridge did actually fend off Sam Smith. At the line, Smith was ahead fractionally by 4 1,000ths of a second, but there you can see the white car is behind the white and green as Harding and Cossons again are getting together into the old hairpin. Cossons moving to defend. Smith is up the inside of Langridge. Harding's got a run on Cossons coming out of the corner, so don't know where to look here, do you? You've got side by side for third, side by side, sorry, for second, excuse me, side by side for fourth as well. Langridge, I think, is going to get freight trained here on the outside line, isn't he? Can Harding get past Cossons? He's up the inside, he fully commits, he goes through, so Jack Harding goes second. Sam Smith, though, is up to fourth, and Langridge has been freight trained. Look, oh, Cossons shutting the door on Smith. Amos goes to the outside. They're 3 wide into Coppice corner, and Richard Amos has gone past the pair of them. Brilliant driving from Richard Amos, the number 6 car, getting it to the front of that queue, and just in the nick of time as well, because the safety car is coming out, and that will bunch everyone back together. But Richard Amos with a timely move there to move ahead of both James Cossons and Sam Smith. It might not be in the team plan, that, because really he should be helping Sam Smith, not overtaking him. Martin Heath has pulled off. That's on the run up the hill towards Schwantz Curve, I think. So he is going no further. I still never quite got to the bottom of who was off the road at the chicane with Clive Powell's. It was the 777 of Andrew Flynn that didn't come through. But then actually 177 didn't either. Will Morris, Grensinger and Fletcher we know stopped at turn 1. So with 5 cars in total to recover, no real surprise that there's going to be a safety car. Now, both drivers are out of the car, which is good. they're leaving their helmets on and they're refusing to speak to each other, which tells me there was almost certainly contact between the two of them and would just put them in the gravel trap. I love reading the body language of disgruntled racing drivers when they're at the side of the road, because it's always somebody else's fault, you see. You'll never speak to a guilty racing driver, and they have, I think, had a little bit of a disagreement there about who was to blame for that incident, but it looks like it is Powell's, and it's either the 777 or the 177. I couldn't quite see from that angle. Both of those cars have vanished on the first lap. Andrew Flynn 177, Will Morris Andrew Flynn 777, Will Morris 177, both out of the race. So, safety car out then. The order is Adam Bessel the leader, Jack Harding second, Richard Amos third, James Coslan's fourth, and Sam Smith rounding out the top five. From Braden Fletcher up into sixth, he also got past John Langridge and all of that. He dropped to seventh. Declan Lee is eighth, Alex Miller ninth, and Lee Britton rounds out the top 10. So, what does this mean for the championship? Well, if we were to throw the checkered flag now, which we're not going to, thankfully, Sam Smith would finish fifth. He would score 92 points. Jack Harding in second would get 98, so the gap would come down slightly, although this would become another of Sam Smith's drop scores. So at the moment he would be on 1489 as opposed to Harding on 1475, so the gap would only actually come down by 2 points. So essentially, if Sam Smith finishes anywhere off the podium, it becomes a dropped score. So the other way of thinking about it is that the minimum amount of points that Sam will score from this race is 96, because even if he didn't bother finishing the race, he would score 96 points back from a race that he was previously dropping. Specifically, the second race of the year at Croft, where he finished third place. In fact, he finished third in both of the first two races at Croft, did Sam. Second in race 3, and then got his first win at Silverstone, followed by another 2 second places, and then he won the next 7 races, 3 at Anglesey, 3 at Snetterton, and 1 at Cadwell Park. So, point I'm making is that Sam Smith is guaranteed to score at least 96, basically, from this race. So, it's all about the damage that Jack Harding can do. The most amount of points that Jack could take out of him mathematically is 5. If he won the race and got the fastest lap, then Jack Harding could outscore Sam Smith by 5 points. If Sam finishes third or better, though, then it doesn't become a drop score, and actually Sam can then reduce the damage being done by Jack Harding in that way. It's all a bit complex, the drop score system. It's certainly headache-inducing when it comes to working it all out towards the end of the year. You can see why the drop score system is there for drivers that might not be able to compete maybe at one event, be that because of damage or mechanical problems that need fixing, maybe their budget doesn't allow them to travel to some of the rounds. Of course, this is a championship that races at places like Anglesey and Cadwell Park, which is quite a trek for a driver that may be based in the south of the country, so sometimes those drivers choose not to race in those events. John Langridge, for example, didn't race at Cadwell last time out. So he missed those 3 races, gets 0 points for them, but they then become his drops. So you can see why they're there, but they do make life a little bit complicated, which is why I'm very glad that the BRSCC made this move a year or so ago to prevent drivers dropping their final event of the year. So whatever happens in a month's time at Brands Hatch will happen, and it will all count towards the championship. That is... I still can't see the number on this car because that fence is in the way. I think it's 177, isn't it? I think that is 177, Will Morris. So it was Morris that tangled with Powell's. Clive's taken his helmet off now, but Will still not in the talking mood, it seems. So hope you'll tune in for that final set of rounds at Brands Hatch, by the way, on 30th and 31st of October. It's our final live stream event with the BRSCC this year, and it will be a fantastic weekend of racing, not just for the Mazdas, but of course for the headline act, the Formula Ford Festival, which celebrates a very important milestone, a very important anniversary this year, and it's looking set to be one of the biggest ever. We've got 90 cars entered, so I'm being told, for the festival itself already, and we're still a month away, over a month away. There are plenty more entries expected. We could well get into the hundreds, and that would just be an incredible spectacle, getting that event back to the sort of spectacle that it once was, which is exactly how it should be. So really looking forward to that. October the 30th and 31st. Head over to the BRSCC website and social media pages, of course, for more information on that, and information on the live stream coverage as well. So, lights are out on the runyourfleet.com safety car. We are ready to go racing this time. Then we've got 11 1/4 minutes to go. So still over half the race remains then. Adam Bessel still the race leader from pole position. But it is now Jack Harding who needs a win. He's only won twice this year, Jack Harding. He's had 3 finishes off the podium, including one yesterday. He can't afford another bad race. He must have a good race here, and he really must beat Sam Smith by as many places as he can to try and outscore him then. Safety car into the pit lane. The field will come out of Goddard's, led by Adam Bessel. Jack Harding staying right with him, though. Good restart that from Jack Harding with a bit of a slipstream down the pit straight. He's going to be close enough, I think, to have a go into Redgate corner. Defensive line taken by Bessel. He knows the attack is coming. Harding sweeps to the outside line. Bessel comes back over to the middle of the road. Harding, though, sells in the dummy. Goes for the late move up the inside. That's really, really close stuff. They're going to trade a little bit of paint on the exit, but that was pretty much as clean as it can get. And Jack Harding has got the inside line now, down through Hollywood and into the Craner curves. Jack Harding is going to go for the lead of the race. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Bessel is coming back at him through the Craners. He's sideways over the curb. They almost made contact at one of the fastest parts of the circuit, but Jack Harding has done it. He's through into the race lead. Bessel is out in the dirt as well. Here comes Sam Smith. Sam Smith up the inside of James Costans for 4th position. So Sam Smith reacting immediately here to Jack Harding getting the lead. He knows he needs to try and get into those podium places. He's up alongside his teammate now, Richard Amos. That shouldn't be a particularly difficult overtake, but then he's got Adam Bessel, who's looking for a good result here, and he's not going to let Sam Smith through. Smith slots into 3rd place. Bessel back to the outside of Jack Harding, but actually that opens the door for Smith to come through on the inside. Sam Smith took the restart in 5th position. Half a lap later, he's side by side for 2nd place. James Costans trying to come back into this as well. Richard Amos is there as well. Adam Bessel on the inside, Smith on the outside. Who's going to have the momentum into the chicane? It's going to be Bessel on the inside line. Smith realised, I think, it wasn't really worth taking a risk there. In fact, Bessel has a really good run through the chicane and might even force Jack Harding to defend down into the Melbourne hairpin. So it's Harding that leads. It's Bessel in 2nd. It's Sam Smith in 3rd place with Richard Amos and James Costans right behind him. They come through the Melbourne hairpin. Langridge there in 6th, ahead of Braden Fletcher and Michael Nibbs. Up the hill towards the top of the circuit, but that was critical, that, for Sam Smith. He's into the podium places now, and that means that whilst this will still become a dropped score, he has the potential maybe to actually go up there and finish in 2nd place, even if he wanted to. Could even challenge for the race victory, because we are still only just into the 2nd half of the race. 8 3/4 minutes to go. Jack Harding trying to get away if he can, but he's going to struggle to do that, I think. He was quicker than Adam Bessel in yesterday's qualifying session by about half a second, but the slipstream's probably worth half a second around here, if not more. So Bessel, as long as he stays with Harding, should be able to use that slipstream to maintain pace with the leader. That's exactly what he's doing. Look, he's almost pushing Jack through the Craner curves, so Harding's going to have one eye in the mirror here. It was a peach of a move that Harding made through Redgate on the restart there. He sold the dummy beautifully to Bessel, made him think that he wasn't going to go for it, and then at the last second he dived to the inside, but then Harding made a mistake through the old hairpin, and Bessel is alongside, and critically Bessel's on the inside line for McLean's. In fact, he's got him already, so Adam Bessel back into the lead then, and Jack Harding finds himself back in 2nd spot. So Harding now busy defending from Sam Smith, so these are the 2 championship leaders side by side, but not for the race lead as we might have expected, because Adam Bessel is not going to roll over here. He is going to try and get himself a race victory. He's had 5 podiums this year, has Adam, but he's never won a race. So Bessel will absolutely want to put that right here, and he sees a good opportunity to do so. And actually, he might be able to use the championship battle that's going on around him to his advantage. If he can back up Jack Harding into Sam Smith, then, you know, perhaps Jack and Sam will become so preoccupied with each other that they almost let Adam Bessel go, and that's exactly what's happening, because Smith goes up the inside of Harding for 2nd place at the hairpin, and he'll try and bring his teammate Richard Amos with him. He's going to shove Harding wide. Amos is up the inside as well. James Costans is there too, and Jack Harding now all of a sudden has it all to do once again. Sam Smith goes 2nd. Harding tries to fight back, looks to the inside into the hairpin at Goddard's. Did he commit? No, he didn't. Thank goodness, because that would have been contact if he did. So Smith into 2nd then, Harding down to 3rd. This has brought Langridge and Fletcher and Nibbs into play. In fact, Nibbs is ahead of Fletcher now. So Michael Nibbs, I think, has got himself into that 7th spot. But Sam Smith back ahead of Harding, who again goes for that move. He's got that down to a T, hasn't he? So impressive, that move that he makes, that dummy that he sells into Redgate corner. And he's got 2nd place again from Sam Smith. But the problem is, as you can see, Adam Bessel is now pulling away. He was a 2nd clear at the line. He's also just set the fastest lap of the race, Adam Bessel, taking a valuable championship point away from Harding and Smith. So he doesn't really care about that, though. He's going to try and escape, whilst this lot all trip over each other fighting for 2nd place. See, Harding and Smith, if they wanted to win the race, would work together now to try and get after the leader, but they don't really care about that. Certainly Smith doesn't. Oh, James Cossons there picks the pocket of Richard Amos for fourth position, as Michael Nibbs goes around the outside of John Langridge. It's like a 2x2 rolling start, this, isn't it, as they go towards Coppice. Side by side, through the right-hander, onto the back straight. There's Bessel. He is absolutely loving seeing this going on behind him. That gap's probably doubled on this lap as a result of the side-by-side action behind. Harding defending again from Smith. Down to the chicane they go. Smith to the outside, just applying the pressure to Jack Harding. Cossons there has got Amos on the inside of him into the chicane. Cossons through the dirt. That'll slow him down on the exit. So Amos might have a run at him down the hill. We've also got Fletcher and Nibbs side by side, I think, at the back of the group. Into the Melbourne hairpin. So Jack Harding then, at the moment, only set to outscore Sam Smith by 2 points. As, oh dear, Nibbs and Amos now getting into it. Michael Nibbs is not backwards in coming forwards, is he? And he's getting very close and personal with Michael Nibbs as they go towards the hairpin. Cossons outbreaks himself, and actually Richard Amos goes up the inside of all of them there. So Michael Nibbs, who was side by side with Amos, does end up picking up a place, but it's not Richard that he passes, it's the wayward Cossons, who now drops down into 6th place. Fletcher and Langridge there together. They're wheel to wheel into the braking zone. Declan Lee and Alex Miller are closing in on this group as well, in number 12 and 7 respectively. It's also allowing Harding and Smith just to break clear. Jack Harding a 2.5 seconds behind the leader. Personal best lap that time for Jack Harding, but it was 0.3 slower than Bessel. So Bessel continuing to pull away, but now that Harding's getting away from a bit from Smith, who in turn is getting away from this group, that might just allow Harding and Smith to close back in on Adam before the end of the race. Someone's off, someone's back on. Who was it? It was hard to tell, actually. They're all still there, I think. Amos, Nibbs, Cossons, Langridge, yeah, they're all still there. Haven't lost anybody, so a wide moment, but nothing too dramatic. Michael Nibbs has had a good race here, hasn't he? Started 7th. I think he dropped a couple of places at the start. But Michael, who's doubling up this weekend, racing in this and the Mark 1s, is running now in 5th position on the tail of Richard Amos. You can see the way that Harding and Smith are getting away from this group, but the question is, are they catching the leader? John Langridge here, coming around the outside of James Cossons. Langridge not been on the podium so far this season, would you believe? Former champion in the Mark 1 Championship. So down into the Melbourne hairpin comes Michael Nibbs with only 3.5 minutes to go. This race is flying by. Is Bessel being reeled in by those leaders? It looked like it may be. Not by a lot, but if they get within a second of Bessel, they should be able to pick up the slipstream. And of course Harding is after that fastest lap point as well. That would be really important for him. If he can get an extra point, then each and every one of these points is going to matter going to the finale at Brands Hatch. I think he might have done it as well. No, Smith is quicker than him. So they're both quicker than the leader by 0.5 seconds. Well, Harding's quicker than the leader by 0.5 seconds. Smith is quicker than the leader by 0.75 seconds. So Sam Smith in 3rd gets the fastest lap, and with it a bonus point, which would put him, as it stands, 15 ahead of Harding. So the gap would now just come down by a solitary championship point. Down through Hollywood comes Declan Lee there, the green number 12 car. He's been driving pretty well this year, as Declan, 6th in the championship, 1 podium, which came in the reverse grid race at Cadwell last time. He's got Braden Fletcher behind him, who's had 2 podium finishes, but a couple of non-finishes as well, one at Croft and one at Cadwell. So slightly up and down season for Braden, but he's been a regular top 10 contender when the car has been working. They have had a couple of mechanical problems, especially back at that season opener. More dust in the air at McLean's corner, as this group have just settled down briefly. This group, though, I sense are not going to settle down. They're going to be starting their final lap this time, and Jack Harding knows that he really needs to try and win this race and hope that Smith finishes 3rd or lower, so that he can really take as many points out of him as possible. He needs to try and get that fastest lap back, Harding, as well, but I think he is catching Bessel. That was a 2nd at the start of the lap between 1st and 2nd place. Smith, of course, is going to be applying the pressure to try and stop Harding from getting after the race leader. The worst thing that could happen for Smith here is that Jack goes and passes Bessel. But I think this gap is just creeping down, and if Harding can get a whiff of a slipstream, and he might just be able to steal a victory. It's going to be a very similar situation, actually, to what we saw at the end of yesterday's second race, except in that one it was Harding chasing down Smith for the lead. Didn't quite get there in the end. That is a new fastest lap for Jack Harding, so 151.197. He was about half a second quicker than the leader, which puts him now well in the slipstreaming range. Means he's taking now 3 points out of Sam Smith, but that could become 5 if he takes the race victory. Down the Craner curves then, Jack Harding through the right, through the left, full commitment, needs a good exit from the old hairpin now. Bessel a bit sideways on the way in, sparks fly there as he clobbers the curb on the apex. That might have slowed him down a little bit. Where's Harding? Is he continuing to close? Maybe. He's running out of time, though. The old hairpin was one overtaking opportunity. This is another, and he's not close enough here, and he still can't quite shake off Sam Smith. Harding, though, throws it into McLean's. He is giving this everything he has got to try and get his third victory of the season into Coppice Corner. A good exit from here is critical. He takes a really early apex there. Is that going to hurt his exit speed? He'll pick up the slipstream anyway, and he might just be close enough. He will be close enough going on to the Grand Prix loop, but Harding has to be careful. Second place is better than third. It's not worth losing that second place in his efforts to get the race lead away, but he goes to the outside of Bessel into the chicane. He's going to commit to it. Jack Harding goes all in. They're both in the gravel. They both come back on the road. Where is Sam Smith? He's not close enough to capitalise, and so Bessel hangs on to the lead, but Jack Harding threw everything in there. That was all or nothing. It was never likely to work, in fairness, and now he is having to defend from Sam Smith through the Melbourne hairpin for the final time. One more corner to go. He might still try and stick it up the inside here into Goddard's, but Bessel, I'm sure, will cover the inside line. To the inside go both of the top two. Sam Smith to the outside. Can he pick the pocket of Jack Harding onto the run to the line? That will actually be quite close, but it is going to be a first victory of the season for Adam Bessel. Congratulations to Adam. He wins the third race for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup here at Donington Park. Second place goes to Jack Harding, and Sam Smith in third. Fair play to Jack. He threw everything he had at that, but it just didn't quite pay off. Richard Amos in fourth. James Costans with fifth, with Declan Lee next, although Michael Nibbs' transponder has been playing up all weekend, so we'll now see, yes, he gets put into sixth position. Declan Lee seventh, John Langridge eighth, Braden Fletcher ninth, and Alex Miller in 10th. Jack Harding, fair play. He could have settled for second. He chose not to. It didn't quite give him the race victory, but it will give him the second place, and he held on to the fastest lap as well. So Jack Harding then brings the gap down. 13 points by my reckoning between Sam Smith and Jack Harding, with 300 on offer at Brands Hatch, and because they can't drop any of those races, that is a genuine 300 points that could be gained if, for example, Sam Smith were to non-finish 3 times, which is possible, it's happened before. Then Jack Harding could very much still win this championship. It's going to be an event you don't want to miss, that, for many reasons, the Formula Ford Festival, but if nothing else, so that you can enjoy the phenomenal championship deciders in our Mazda MX-5 championships, all 3 of them going down to the wire, both Super Cup and the Mark 1 championship, and the new for 2021 MX-5 Clubman championship, which sees Harry Storer enjoy a reasonably healthy lead, but again, this drop score situation, or lack of drop scores at Brands, means that no one is safe, so plenty still to look out for at the final rounds in a month and a bit's time. There on the left is your final result. Adam Bessel, the winner, Jack Harding second, Sam Smith third, Richard Amos fourth, ahead of James Costans in fifth, then Michael Nibbs, Declan Lee, John Langridge, Braden Fletcher, Alex Miller to round out the top 10. Patrick Fletcher, of course, had a non-finish in that one, and that's significant for third in the championship, because he came into that race only 12 points ahead of James Costans. That will be his second non-finish of the year, Patrick, so it becomes a dropped score. Costans, though, finished in 5th and gets 92 and moves now to just 6 points behind him. So James Costans then closing in on that one, and then the Langridge, Lee, Braden Fletcher scrap for 5th. Langridge crossed the line slightly lowly 8th in the end, having run a lot higher than that earlier on. Declan Lee was 1 place ahead of him in 7th. And Braden Fletcher was 1 place behind him in 9th with 84 points, which means that it will still be the same order then. Langridge from Lee from Fletcher, 5th, 6th and 7th. So, very exciting stuff from our third MX-5 Super Cup race of the weekend. The championship will be decided at Brands Hatch next time. Before we have a chat with our top 3 drivers, though, let's catch up with some of the highlights from our third race of the weekend. So the MX5 Super Cup drivers then make their way into the into Parc Ferme, excuse me. Whilst we're waiting for Scott Woodwiss to have a chat with our top three, let's just have a run through what the afternoon has in store for us, shall we? Because the racing still to come today is going to be varied and some different stuff than we've seen so far over the course of the weekend. And here is how it will look. The Welsh Drivers Association making a guest appearance on the bill here at 2:25. They'll have their first of two races this afternoon. Same is true then of the Zio Prototype Cup with their first of two races at 2:55. The Mark 1 MX-5s are out at 3:30 for their final race of the weekend. The final for the Motorsport UK British Supercar Grand Prix is at 4:05. Then the Welsh Drivers Association at 4:30. The prototypes are back out at 5 o'clock. And the final race of the day, the BRSCC Club Sport Trophy. 45-minute race with a mandatory pit stop in the middle. Driver changes, all manner of vehicles out on track. 5:35 the scheduled start time for that one. So that is how the afternoon looks then. Scott Woodwiss, though, is down in Parc Ferme for the final time this morning with our podium finishers from the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup.
Tell you what, Mazda MX-5 Super Cup will never produce a boring race. There's so much that goes on in an MX-5 race across the board with BRSCC. It's no wonder the grids are packed, no wonder they're going to be packed for the season finale at Brands Hatch at the end of October. One amusing thing I did notice was that almost all the cars that were coming in had chipped and or cracked windscreens, which obviously means they've been going through the gravel a lot, and therefore I think they're going to have to raid the Mazda department, or they're going to have to get someone who can do it and probably be quids in. The top three, in fact, are just down here in the Parc Ferme. So we're going to grab, first of all, our race winner, who just in deep in conversation, but I believe first time.
In Super Cup, yeah.
In Super Cup, yeah. Adam Bezel. That's a long time coming, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, really long time coming. Really happy with that. Nearly lots of lights, apart from when Jack got past after the safety car. I sort of knew that was coming. I tried to go as late as I could after the safety car, but yeah, apart from that, it was great.
You've had a really breakout year this year with lots of podiums, now finally first win in Super Cup. So this has been a mega 2021 for you as far as you're concerned, I'm sure.
Yeah, really good. Hoping to sort of take that momentum into next season and then use that so we can go forward, hopefully. So.
And you got Brands coming up. You want another one, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, did I win last year at Brands, or I came second? I think
you were close.
Yeah, it was really close last year. So hopefully, we'll take that again this year. So that'll be great. Really good.
Try and carry the momentum.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be good. I'm just glad to beat Sam for once.
Good stuff. Well done, congratulations, and we'll see you at Brands.
Thanks, Scott. Cheers.
Good stuff. We're going to wrap it up just for the close of our first part of the stream, because we're heading into lunch. We've also got the Club Sport Trophy qualifying session as well. But this afternoon there's more action from MX-5s, from also the Welsh Racing Drivers Association. Also the Zio Prototype Cup is out for its two races, its final two of the season. And of course this afternoon tune in for the 45-minute BRSCC Club Sport Trophy race as well. So from down here in the Parc Ferme, that's all from me for this morning. Catch us later on this afternoon for the Welsh Racing Drivers Association, Welsh Sports and Saloons. That's the first race after lunch. But for now, either we'll see you after break or back to Andy in the comms.